Hi everyone, welcome to Sam and Silriven's Wrathion Book Club. My name is Silriven.
And I am Sam, also known as Ash. Just thought we might as well do a preamble.
Yes, a little preamble to kind of explain what this is. Last weekend on May 6th and May 7th, Sam and I recorded ourselves playing through patch 10.1 Embers of Neltharion, and I was responsible for the recording, and I somehow messed up the audio so that Sam's audio is delayed by a good chunk. In parts, it sounds like I am talking over Sam or she's not letting me get a word in, and that is not what happened. This audio was happening in real time in my headphones on my desktop, and OBS just decided, nah, I didn't catch it in my test recording because I had no idea that this was something I had to keep an ear out for. Clearly, I've fixed that problem. You can now hear us talking back and forth.
I am a talkative booger. I did talk over you, but our future recordings, because we're planning on doing the next two chapters, I think it's chapters 5 and 6. These two chapters that we're going to be doing this weekend are the approach to Aberrus and the Slitherdrake chapter. As you will soon listen to us doing the first few chapters, we do think these are the ones that are probably the weakest for Wrathion. Wouldn't you agree, Sil?
Yeah, definitely for Wrathion.
And the ones leading up in the next quest, we actually don't mind. Sil's going in blind on the cutscenes and things like that, but we generally know what to expect. And the later ones, even though it's a little bit like, okay, Wrathion's just kind of there, they're not as bad. Probably that's why, isn't it? He's not doing things that are a detriment to his character. And if any devs wander across this video, you may listen to it, but Sil is the good cop and I'm kind of the bad cop.
I think what we've specifically been saying is that you are the Hayao Miyazaki and I am the Junji Ito. My fanworks are very dark and spooky and depressing, but I try to be as positive as I can when I'm actually playing this game. And you are Hayao Miyazaki, so your fanworks are magical and wonderful and beautiful and colorful, and you tend to be...
I'm a grumpy old bastard. Yes, I am a fair grumpy old bastard. I am certainly more of a cynic. I don't mince words, essentially. When I don't like something, I make it known. But I don't think I'm unfair in regards to that. And there's a lot that we do like in the upcoming scenario quest too. However, we do descend into madness by the end of the recording.
We both have our little rants. Let's leave it at that.
So if you're a dev and you're like, I'm going to listen to this, just take some caution.
Or if you're a person who really doesn't like hearing people complain about the story, things like that. If you really like the way Wrathion is written in Dragonflight, you will not like this video.
And we do have to disagree with you too. We're putting our foot down here. We've been long-time fans of Wrathion, like very, very long-time fans of Wrathion. We really like the Black Dragonflight. We like dragon lore, and we like being engaged on those sorts of things.
For me, in my case, I've been a fan of Wrathion for about 3 years because I started playing in Legion, so BFA was my first introduction to him, so I'm the noob here.
I've been playing since NBC, but I didn't really know how to play back then. But I became a proper raider in Wrath, and by proper raider I mean like heroic 25 man. I was always still a bit interested in the lore, and I think that really came out when Mr. Pandaria hit, and I sort of came back to the game after a break, and I really started engaging with the characters, and Anduin and Wrathion really endeared themselves to me. I was like, who are these annoying, sassy teenagers? Me, barely out of teenagehood myself back then. I do have a bit of a background for critiquing, getting pieces in magazines. Way back when I used to go by my semi-sneaky moniker of Sam, pretended I was a guy writing about video games. Got some things in PC Gamer and stuff. So critiquing games is not beyond me. And still, any sort of closing notes here?
No, I don't think I have anything else to say. Just also want to repeat that we will be playing the next two chapters this upcoming weekend on the 13th and the 14th, so that will be coming sometime after this video.
We may even do like a semi-recording of us trying to do normal in the raid. Dare I tank with pugs?
So we will both be playing the raid and possibly have a post-mortem about the post-raid questline whenever that is released. I have a strong feeling that the aspect is going to be chosen by the end of this campaign, and that there's not going to be much with the Black Dragonflight after this patch. Maybe the aspect Abyssian, whoever that will be, will show up and be at the top of the temple at Valdrakken and stuff like that. But I have a feeling this is going to be it.
I do agree with you. So I think it's all going to be wrapped up kind of in this bit, and then maybe like a little bit at maybe the end of the expansion, depending on where the plot goes. Hope everyone enjoys this. Me and Sil had a blast playing through it. So enjoy, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for sticking around.
I have been expecting you. Until the old gods have been vanquished. Yet, they were only one threat to Azeroth. Many others still loom on the horizon and lurk in the shadows. Know that from this day forth, the Black Dragonflight will honor its ancient charge and stand in defense of our world, along with its champions.
Hello everyone, joining in to listen to me and Sil today talk about patch 10.1 of Dragonflight. I may have touched on this slightly and said that, planning to play this patch together, go through the story quest and just sort of critique the quest, also give our honest feedback here. And hello there, my name is Sam, also known as Ash. That's my little moniker for my art account. My name that I should go by is Sam, and I do fan art for WoW sometimes. I'm lawyer by day, menace by now, very Daredevil-esque.
My name is Silverman, and I write a little bit of fanfic for World of Warcraft, and I also play the game occasionally. As Sam said, today we are both here to do a campaign for patch 10.1, Embers of Neltharion, which is all about the Black Dragonflight, which we both love. It's like our favorite lore in the game.
Yes, indeed. Might as well get into it. We want to see our favourite characters. We've always had an interest in dragon lore. It has Wrathion in there, who's one of our favourite characters.
I decided that I wanted to see the cutscenes in order and in context instead of in God knows what order on YouTube. So this will be kind of a reaction vid. We'll see how that goes. Normally I don't like reacting to things right away. I like to sit and think about them a bit, but I will do my best.
You're going to give your honest opinion. You're going to say, does this spark joy when I watch that cutscene? And we'll see how it goes, hey? And now we both played through the PTR a fair bit. We went through those quests and we gave some honest feedback, and we also gave a bit of feedback on social media too. People do try to give good feedback on the forums sometimes, but how people's feedback is received on the forums is another matter. But when we were doing the PTR, we actually enjoyed a lot of the parts of it too, other than our critiques, probably, you know, balancing out here. There was some things that we enjoyed.
I would say there was a lot of things that I enjoyed. Even
if we see dragons, we enjoy dragons, so we like them. We look at the dragon, we're like, that's a pretty good dragon. I do miss the slightly squinkly looks of the old dragon models, but I do like the new dragon models. Like I said, here we are. Here's both of our characters. Scylla's playing as Nyx here. I am the dwarf doing the river dance at the moment.
Hilder.
And in the Mr. Pandaria challenge mode set here. When I used to be a turbo nerd back in the day, my actual serious WoW playing moments were back in Wrath and Kata, a bit of Pandaria, and Warlords of Draenor. We don't have the most time to play World of Warcraft. Hopefully people are either entertained by this or do get a different insight at least. We do want to go through the raid as well. Aberrus is a little bit interesting in a sense that we've seen Black Dragonflight laboratories before. However, it's usually with architecture from
Nefarion's laboratories,
Blackrock Mountain, using that dwarven architecture, because it's implied the Black Dragonflight sort of moved in there and then chased all the dwarves down to the lower levels, etc., etc. In Dragonflight, it's the first time I was seeing actual draconic architecture, which is interesting to both of us. Both have quite interesting world building in all aspects, but also in architecture and how visual presence
I love the Obsidian Citadel. It is my favorite area to be in this expansion, and so I just think it's really cool that we get to see Black Dragon architecture the way the Black Dragonflight designed it.
And talking about Black Dragonflight culture as well, we'll actually talk about this a bit later, because I actually have something to say about that as well in regards to depictions of Black Dragonflight culture. And before we get into the quest here, just a quick note. This patch is all about things like inheritance, the idea of
legacy,
moving forward within one's story. Yeah, legacy. There we go. I think that's the word that they've been using for a lot of the interviews they've been having. It's the idea of legacy. We'll also touch on this too, the idea of heritage, legacy, and culture, and how we think what parts may be included well in regards to that and what parts may not be included as well. Black Dragonflight culture is actually something very, very interesting. And at the moment, it's a bit of a tug of war between whether Neltharion was always a bit of a bastard, TM, or whether there's some good draconic culture. And I think one of the side quests from 10.0.7 covered the idea of the Black Dragonflight being the artisans, the philosophers.
Definitely artistic. They were artistic.
I don't want to say artistic,
they were
but
philosophers
almost artistic
and scientists. Well, philosophy was the birthplace of science, so fitting with all of them. We were very excited to hear this tidbit. The new stuff with the red dragon, who has the elderly dwarf visage that everyone loves, and Wrathion, I think is his name, who is kind of the ambassador from the Black Dragonflight, who going into the vault and bringing stuff back to hear stories from him.
Very good feedback from those quests.
Oh, I loved them.
It's a bit of a change up from World of Warcraft's usual quests. The experience of World of Warcraft quests is they tend to be a bit of a tug of war between, is this supposed to be telling a story, and how many things do you want me to collect after killing so many mobs? And that sort of design of quests has been very, very long standing within World of Warcraft. So it's nice to get a bit of a change of pace in regards to that. Actual quests that complement the story incredibly well, or they take time. They take time to let characters talk, rather than you as a player having to have more of the active role. You as a player can take more of a passive role and see stories unwind. Yeah. Other MMOs have had that a lot more than WoW has in the past, if we're being honest. So it's a nice change of pace, and I think we want to see more of those sorts of things in future content. But we'll see how 10.1 handles its quest, and what quests do sort of shine, and what quests are definitely duller in comparison. So should we start off? Should we go see the Black Dragonflight getting up to shenanigans? Shall we? Okay, let's go.
Okay, so I wanted to start us off with two positive things before we get into it. So the first thing is Abyssine's new model, which I love. I was a little sad when I first saw it because they got rid of that skull headpiece, but it really works so much better because you can see his entire face. And I especially love his draconic eyes in the Tauren model. And especially in the cutscene that was between him and Emberthal, it really helps you see his entire face and his range of emotions and things like that. So I really love it. It's awesome.
His expressions really do shine through here. It's really nice to actually see that as well.
I love that they gave him a book. Well. So on the PTR for a while, he was sitting here like this, and he was doing this really weird stretching motion, and then he was also kind of throwing his arms, so it looked like he was chucking rocks off the side of the tower or something like that, fidgeting, and it was just very bizarre. And he has some really interesting dialogue when you talk to him now, and he gives you an item, a mysterious tome from the Obsidian Citadel's library.
Mysterious book that we'll be receiving from Wrathion as well, which is good. And people may also know that I did that very long
your 25-page masterpiece.
Characterization, narrative. It was done in roughly a night, by the way. My 5,000 plus words I slammed out. I'd had a long day at work, which was not a bad day, but certainly when you're doing law, you can have a long day. And I was overfueled on coffee. I saw the initial reception from the 10.1's PTR, and I was like, I think I have some things to say. Anyway, so cutting back to Wrathion here, it was one thing that I suggested that they needed. Wrathion has always had a close tie to research, both in Pandaria, in BFA. He's always been the one who's been doing the research into things. So a book is a good change. Sil, you've told me to watch my tone.
It was an interesting choice for sure. I don't know if it was just like a placeholder until they added the skin or what, but like, what is he doing?
I don't know, just haven't thrown rocks. Fucking terrible, may I just say. So this is a much better change. Really like this, and it's actually put some thought into it. So it's nice. Like I said, Wrathion is a researcher. The thing is that belying his intelligence in any sort of manner of the word, it would be a silly choice, essentially. Getting back into my better behaved language here. So nice change up. I like that. That's a good choice, and we both.
Oh yeah, I really enjoy that he gives us like a little research project.
Yeah, and we actually get the book too. So, and the flavor text reads: an untranslated tome discovered by Wrathion in the Obsidian Citadel. He gifted it to you, believing that you would pursue its mystery.
Until next
time. We will pursue its mystery. I do believe that someone touched on this, and is this a spoiler? So I don't think this is too much. If you destroy the book, Wrathion will send you a new one.
Oh my god.
And say, I think you dropped this. I think you dropped it. Have the fucking book.
So another thing I wanted to mention is that I
Anyway,
really love how Sibelian and Wrathion are kind of sitting
It's
at
actually-
opposite
I like
ends
that.
of this pillar here. I think that's like a very subtle way of conveying that they don't really want to be next to each other right now.
Yeah,
Very well.
it's good
We will meet
environmental
again later.
storytelling. There we go. They're close by to each other, but they don't want to be standing next to each other. I do not know him. If he gets up to any sort of mischief, I do not know
These
him.
are trying
I do not know.
times.
Let's have
Here.
a chat to Abyssian and get this show on the road. I like Strauss's cutscene. Oh, it's this cutscene. Actually, do we want to watch this one? I think
Yeah,
everyone's
sure,
seen
might as
it.
well. I mean, I'll sit here and watch it again. Oh my god, Farak looks so cool. I know, it's so cute and bushy.
I like his little tail. I like how they gave him a tail as well.
Can we get on with it?
Let the children
Okay.
of Neltharion claim their birthright.
Oh, I do love that line, the children of Neltharion.
Also,
Okay, thank you for humoring me. I wanted a reminder.
Oh, yes.
Instead of
Before we
no,
continue,
that probably
just take a
has a bit
note
of a-
of Vician and Sibelian
Okay.
and Wrathion's heights right here. This will come back later.
this will come back to haunt us. If anyone has seen Scary Movie, and the joke in Scary Movie is the sheriff, I think it's the sheriff, I'm not too sure what you'd call that sort of person in America, pulls over the main characters in the car, and the cutaway joke is each time there's a cutaway in that scene, her hat keeps on getting big.
Yeah.
We believe that Wrathion is the hat in this situation. Every time we do a cutaway, Wrathion gets a little bit bigger, and on the flip side, Sibelian gets a little bit smaller.
My
So-
headcanon is that Sibelian and Wrathion are like doing
Not
this
too sure why.
competition where
Sure.
they increase each other's visages by like an inch to try and be higher than the other one.
Soon Abyssian will be the smallest in this
Like,
situation.
what are you
So
two doing?
There
It's
is
going to be so
honor in
tiny,
service.
so tiny. Okay, so Abyssian here is asking us to go after Farak, and he's going to go locate Emberthal.
I
Talking.
must recruit Emberthal to our quest. Wait for me at the entrance.
Why? Surely we four are more than enough.
I want to talk about something here. It irks me that Wrathion is so dismissive of Emberthal. This annoys me for a couple of reasons, because he was the Alliance emissary for the Drakthir. I don't know like what happened. Did he just drop them off at Stormwind and then was like, okay, bye, good luck, and headed off to the Dragon Isles?
Yeah, because I think this is actually, again, one of the major weaknesses in Wrathion's story, and we're going to be talking about this a lot, the major weaknesses in Wrathion's writing. His narrative, just generally building him as a character within Dragonflight, I think is lacking in a lot of areas. But we'll touch on them and explain why that is. And for example like this, Wrathion being dismissive or just generally uninterested in the Drakthir. After having that introduction, he invites the Drakthir to Stormwind. He teaches them about visages, he talks with them a lot and he engages, with the Alliance version
Yeah,
of
it's
their
not just that beginning part at
It's odd.
Stormwind. I was revisiting the 10.0 quest just to refresh my memory, and I'd totally forgotten that Emberthal was present at the Obsidian Enclave when Wrathion was formulating his strategy for taking back the Citadel. So she helps him in his first initial assault on the Citadel. So it's just especially weird to me that she helped him in that and he doesn't want to help her in return, is so dismissive of her. And I feel like he should have a lot in common with the Drakthir, considering he's also an experiment who had to find his place in the world. And he's also very resourceful. So I don't understand why he wouldn't see the Drakthir's value as allies, at least, since they're very strong fighters. It's just bizarre to me that he just generally needs to be dragged into helping out the Drakthir.
It's very, very odd, that. And it honestly feels like maybe Wrathion's history / characterization wasn't reviewed before looking at these quests in regards to the Drakthir. Because, again, like you said, Wrathion was an experiment. He was treated as just a tool, essentially. because he was supposed to be the first uncorrupted black dragon for a while. That was going to be essentially used by the red dragon.
I do really like this initial quest where he's showing interest in the ashes.
Yeah, very, very good, and I actually have something to say about that. Just quickly wrapping up about the Dracula and Wrathion there. They have a lot in common. And narratively, you should be touching on that. It's very odd to leave that as a gaping hole narratively in regards to Wrathion's own history and how he reacts to those. He sees as essentially being used as tools. When we were doing Wrathion's initial quest in BFA, where he's stopping the cultists, where Neltharion was doing his experiments back in Cata, and also Onyxia's remains in that same place, how he dealt with the cultist in there and how he saw that they were experimenting on dragons again, it had a very visceral reaction from him. I feel like that was completely glossed over with the Dracthea. Maybe the writers didn't want to touch that. They didn't really want to go into that too much. However, the instantaneous connection that Abyssian has and Emberthor that's then placed in the later patches past just 10.0, and then Wrathion not having any sort of connection to the Dracthea, a little bit of an odd choice, especially with Wrathion's background. Like I said, if they didn't want to include it at all, like they wanted to go a much easier route in regards to not touching on Wrathion's own history of being an experiment himself and a very contentious relationship to how he was created, who he was created by, how essentially the red Dragonflight tried to kill Wrathion twice. That's why I thought, okay, so they're just glossing over this as they didn't have any sort of conflict between Alexstrasza and Wrathion in the sense of his creation and how his life has been dealing with the red Dragonflight. That's fine, you know, maybe. But it's a little bit odd considering the idea of legacy. Again, bringing that into the actual questline and then glossing over that with the Dracthea and Wrathion is only a choice, but that's just our input here. I wouldn't personally, I would have touched on it a lot more, and I feel that Wrathion would have been out of Abyssian, out of Sibelian, and himself would have been
definitely like the most
the
sympathetic to them, I would think.
And like you said, still, yeah, and their plight. And like you said, truth, even if he found resistance from the Dracthea, or maybe he looks at them and feels almost a sense of jealousy, and I touched on it in my essay, and we've touched on it a lot before, having the idea of Wrathion acting differently and being
impatiently,
acting rashly, acting brash, impatient, childish, is quite all right in a story. That's fine. But there needs to be a solid foundation for a sudden changing character. And yes, there's been some time passing between BFA and Dragonflight, but one would believe that that would cause even a steadier reaction in Wrathion. He's learned a lot in that time. And while we have no idea what Wrathion is getting up to in that time skip between BFA and now Dragonflight, these reactions are certainly a choice without any sort of strong reasoning. And I've seen people note that, oh, it's because, you know, Sibelian's about now. Having a sibling there makes you drop down to their level, or it makes you act more childish and things like that. I can't really agree, because when Abyssian
he was very accepting of him. He, even before they'd met, he went out of his way to prepare a potion for him in case he fell victim to the old god's whispers.
Exactly. And the thing is that was almost, I'd say it was almost an excitement from Wrathion, given the circumstances in BFA and his own background in seeing every single black dragon around him being corrupted or recruiting cultists. I'm thinking of Nallis and or the black dragons back in Cata. Basically the legendary questline for the Fangs of the Father in Cataclysm. A lot of those dragons were just, you know, flat out corrupted. They couldn't resist the whispers. And even though there was only a few that we saw,
you know, for the longest time, I seriously thought he'd taken out like a quarter or a half of the Black Dragonflight, the way people talk about those quests. And when I went back and I hunted down the Fangs of Our Father questline, I was so surprised to find that there were only 4 black dragons who were assassinated, one of which was Deathwing. I was like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And the trouble is that like,
yeah, the other dragons had been hunting them down. There was a war over that. Wrathion definitely wasn't the only one killing black dragons. I really like the reframing of that as a horrific tragedy, because it is. But I think it's really unfair to look at Wrathion's quests back in Cata and say, oh, this was the writers trying to say that we've gone too far. Because reading it now, it really does seem like just, okay, this is your cool quest that you get as a rogue to get your OP gear. So the black dragons that you kill, 2 of them have escaped from the battle at Wormrest, and they immediately start doing sketchy stuff. One is performing blood magic on Gilneans, and the other is starting some kind of weird cult in a temple somewhere. I don't remember where. And then the last dragon is Farad, who, once Wrathion calls him out on being a black dragon, the old gods in his head get really angry, and he immediately starts being really creepy, and he basically is about to kill Wrathion and you. So it was kind of self-defense. I definitely really like the reframing of all the black dragon murder as a tragedy. I think that's a really good bit of depth to add to the world building. But back in Cata, the black dragonflight were like cannon fodder. That was their role in that expansion.
Historically, there's been a lot of issues with obviously how dragons been handled in WoW. We won't get into too much detail. And the actual, I don't want to say the crimes against dragonkind, but essentially how a lot of the writing in regards to horrific things happening to the dragonflights weren't handled the best. It was definitely, you know, edgy 2000s writers being like, yeah, that sounds really horrific, so I'll add that in. Reframing, and these are the situations where retconning is actually really useful in video games especially. It's going back and editing things that don't really work in these situations, and it's okay. That's the thing. It's a matter of letting go of what is previously past and has no hold over a plot anymore. And like I said, Black Dragonflight needs that a lot. They need a bit of kindness in regards to this. And there's been, I mean, we'll talk more about how at the moment our 3 main Black Dragonflight characters are 2 visible men of color and 1 character who is coded with an indigenous element to him, which is clear. It's Native American. And the thing is that how those characters are treated needs to be treated with a good bit of care and caution in regards to that. I wouldn't have to be saying this too much if there were other characters in WoW.
Wrathion was the only one for the longest time.
These are the only ones. And we could talk about the Orientalism combined in Wrathion's character upon his conception. But like I said, we'll be going into it too much there. But the thing is that care and caution needs to be taken with these characters. That's the main issue here. And with the Black Dragonflight as a whole, there needs to be a bit of reframing in a sense of, okay, which Dragonflight do we need to handle with a bit of care without letting stereotypes sort of ingrain themselves here? Let's release some of that, essentially. But anyway, I think all of our little natter there just rewinds back into essentially Wrathion's interaction with the Drakthir and how important it is to recognize Wrathion's past and the issues with Wrathion's conception.
Yeah, like how does Wrathion feel now about the fact that he assassinated
and the awareness
3 black dragons instead of trying to help them when he was younger? Because he did eventually learn how to stop the whispers. That was one of the main things he did in between, I guess, WoD and BFA. Like, he didn't wait for Abyssian to succumb to the whispers and then assassinate him. He went out of his way to get 20 steps ahead of that and have something prepared in the event that he did fall to the whispers, which shows growth and a very different approach to problem solving.
Wrathien was showing patience and
imagine
ahead, and these are core elements to his characters. Imagine that. And I think that was, you said, between Lords of Draenor, the quest with Admiral, I forget his name at the moment. Taylor. Again, Wrathien still being quite young, because this was straight after Mr. Pandaria, equivalent of a teenage lad, same as Enderman, still warning a whole bunch of Alliance troops that wanted his head, essentially saying, you better get out of here. One of you is a traitor. And then leaving, and people saying, oh, Wrathion killed Admiral Taylor. Yeah, Wrathion, why didn't you just pick up all those Alliance
with
soldiers
his little whelp wings?
Personally lift them out of Admiral Taylor's garrison. With his little whelp wings, come on, man. You're equivalent to a 16-year-old, but come on, get your shit together, man. Try a little fucking harder. I know the adults in your life have manipulated you, and
you're in the hottest
being,
water
like,
anyone could ever
yourself.
imagine anyone being in right
like,
now.
When I was a 16-year-old, I was solving all sorts of like adult problems. Anyway, all jokes aside there. I think he found out a lot of the elements to either halt or slow corruption were in Karazhan. That was the implication with him talking with the Shader Maediv and things like that. Again, Wrathion went to immediately research the source of the libraries of Karazhan. You know, they were, well, before Karazhan and its corruption and its fall from grace, were essentially like a haven of knowledge, the knowledge of Azeroth. So that's where he went.
I realized that a lot of my favorite secondary characters in Warcraft are all characters who've not necessarily been nice to Wrathion, but like not mean to him. So it's Khadgar, Medivh, Magni.
Real shit. Khadgar. All of the Shadowpan.
All of the Shadowpan, yeah. Left, right.
This is the thing again. Wrathion is such a character, so much potential. And he's one of the characters who's a new character. He's not from the old Warcraft, you know.
Yeah,
Warcraft
he was introduced in Cata
like that.
For better or for worse.
Yeah, for better or for worse. And the thing is, like I said, care and caution, especially with him being the only visible, I'm saying visible character.
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there. Wrathion's just been sitting here with his,
anyway, we've had a little bit of a moment of talking, yeah. And
okay, I'm gonna continue with this quest.
Let's continue. And a quick note too, since I was talking about Neltharion in Cata and Onyxia's remains, this isn't the first time where we've had a flame imbued with corrupted energies, by the way. Neltharion actually resurrects Onyxia with a type of shadow flame. So no spoilers, everyone, but we know that these whispers aren't just from a shade of Neltharion. My goodness, guys. There's a lot of names here. We know it's old gods. Like, there's no doubt about it that these whispers are old god shenanigans down here. But anyway, let's continue on here talking to Sibelian. Sibelian's getting a little bit discheesed that Abyssian is taking his time. And let's go back to Wrathion.
This is like a nice moment of quiet before descending into the cavern.
We meet again.
Also, take your time, my friend, and then removing the what was it? The extra bit that I
take what time you need.
Went on about within reason. Removed very specifically. That was something that I put in my little document, which was the thing that I suggested to remove. Because again, we'll talk about this more further because we know what's coming with this as well. The whispers and how Wrathion and Sibelian are going to be acting. I'd include Abyssian in that, but Abyssian doesn't really change in regards to the whispers. We'll make a note that they wanted to make a clearer distinction between, if it is the whispers, I'm using big air quotes here, if it is the whispers making Sibelian and Wrathion act differently, they needed to make Wrathion and Sibelian act differently on the surface as to beneath now. It does make me doubt, picture of L.A. Noir's detective, that there was going to be much difference between the way that Sibelian and Wrathion acted on the surface here as to underground, and that was a big tell. I actually pointed that out in the P-Town. Blackwing Descent is where Neltharion, in his vaguely holding on to life form, resurrects Onyxia with Shadow Flame. So the idea of Farak and Shadow Flame isn't a new concept, by the way. This has been lightly touched on before. Yeah, well, like I said, it's a bit where you fight the end bosses and Onyxia's corpse is reanimated with purple Shadow Flame. So I'm thinking that for the design and delivery of Aberrus and a lot of these quests, a lot of the researchers went back to that raid to look at the elements to that. But I would have suggested a bit more review of the BFA quest with Wrathion and how Wrathion acted to that Black Talon dying in that situation. He was very patient, he was very focused, and he actually was very patient and focused in that quest line when dealing with actual cultists who wanted to possibly enslave him to the whispers. So quite intense in regards to that. And even Wrathion notes in those BFA quest lines, it's very difficult to resist corruption. So we can also see then by his later quest how paranoid he almost is. It's almost a paranoia with the corruption. He won't let you engage directly with the books. And also, yes, we have a proper grave now. Oh, sorry, I just finished that quest and the grave changed from the steaming pile of ash there. So anyway, but yeah, quite a different reaction as it was good to remove that within reason, because again, it's just another quip that wasn't needed in regards to Wrathion's writing. It's a much more peaceful take on Wrathion's character, and a lot more in line with BFA. But anyway, I conclude that. Let's get on with these quests.
Let's
immediately
descend into the
into
underground.
long form talks. Hell yeah. Oh, hey, Sibelian. Bye. Also, really like this. Again, I think everyone's touched on it. It's really cool going through a cavern, you know, flying down here into a cavern. Also, get out of the way, person who can't dragon ride properly.
They just don't have your Guild Wars 2 experience.
I'm flying here. I'm flying. Anyway, so.
And training. Griffin riding.
Griffin riding for life.
See, Wrathion, they have been marshalling a defense while we tarried. Wrathion.
Did you hear that? A voice.
Wrathion, pay attention.
Yes, of course. These primalists do not stand a chance.
No, the Whispers.
Oh, I do think that's really interesting how Wrathion was the first to notice.
The Whispers, yes. And like I said, that's a cutscene by itself is fine. What is the writer's intentions? Well, they want to set up the Whispers. The delivery on that, now this is where I often have an issue with a lot of World of Warcraft's writing, just really quickly here, pacing. I think that's actually one of the main issues with World of Warcraft's writing and its delivery of story. If they want to push that Wrathion and Sibelian are now hearing whispers underground, and that changes their personalities. The personalities on the surface should have been different. It should have been a noticeable change down here below. And I'm not just talking about, like, this is the thing, I don't think it's enough of a considerable change, and they may be like, we're going for subtlety. The subtlety, as we see through the later quest, doesn't deliver. And the other thing that I'm going to point out is
have they won?
Wrathion and Sibelian have been underground before in this expansion.
Oh, the vaults, you mean?
In the underground of the Obsidian Citadel. This Zaralet Cavern is actually underneath Obsidian Citadel, roughly. So why are the whispers affecting them now, is the question. Second of all, Wrathion, and I brought this up before too, so why is Wrathion coming to this expansion with absolutely no plan? This isn't like his character. Even when his plans are absolutely shithouse, looking at Mr. Pandaria, even when his plans are absolutely just go 180, go arse up, Wrathion is a character with a plan. And that's one thing that's noticeably missing from Dragonflight, is Wrathion really came into this expansion with no other plan than, I'm going to become Aspect. He hasn't prepared for anything. He hasn't sought out new allies, even like had more like a cheeky little rivalry with Sibelian. This is the thing, when they're always fighting, if you wanted to make it out that there's going to be a really grand point where Sibelian and Wrathion stop fighting, the fights, I believe, should have been more intense in regards to the build up to this. Instead, we just have a whole lot of quibbles, and the quibbles have like, oh, they fought, okay, they're sorry about it. Oh, they fought again. Oh, they're sorry about it again. They fought again. It sort of reduces the impact of the general storytelling, and also, again, the pacing of that. If they had a few blowouts, maybe that would hit a lot better in regards to the pacing of the story. And it's the same with the Whispers. The Whispers could have been incrementally introduced, like a frog boiling in a pot of hot water. If you start off the water cold, the frog won't notice it when it becomes hotter and hotter. The frog will just stay in the pot until it boils to death. And if you wanted to introduce that sort of aspect of the whispers within the story writing here, that'd be okay. But again, then it undermines Wrathion's character in the sense that he went into this expansion with no preparation whatsoever. He's literally just here. He's just a character who's rocked up and he's reacted to things. And so you know how much I hate characters who are passively pushed along by a main plot rather than being proactive within the plot. And I think proactivism and within narrative writing, and then also pacing, are the two most powerful tools that one can use in regards to setup and delivery. It's like, okay, they're underground whispers, okay, sure, what's the difference in the character? Not much, really. They're just a bit loud.
Yeah, this was something I was going to get into after this bit that we're going to go through, but yeah, I agree.
You want to go through this bit and then give us the hot takes? You want to get through
okay, sure.
through this
I will have my little rant about that after we get through this bit.
I am the future blow.
Yeah.
We have not
okay,
been
so engage with Sibelian.
I prefer the stealthy approach as well, but now is the time to let dragons be dragons.
Oh, I love
Sibelian's
Sibelian's voice actor. He
is very
kills it. It's so good.
No, You are just going to...
Going to terrify them? Make them reevaluate.
Yeah, I love
Both of
Wrathion's
these voice
PA
actors
as well.
are
I'm so glad
acting their
he
butts off here. So
came back for this expansion, because it really wouldn't have been the same without him.
you need to have a very posh voice when you're doing
He nails that,
voice.
absolutely.
And
I
again,
personally
so we
love
also
this. I love
noted that
fighting
this is a
with
really
Wrathion
cool
and
bit where
Sibelian.
Wrathion
Also, we have the
refines more.
Earth Warders protection buff, which is kind of cool.
We got a little rock crown. Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone. But yeah, like I said, Wrathion's lines are a bit all of a sudden. And maybe they did want to create that sort of contrast, sure, but then it's like, okay, but we've been acting a bit like this on the surface too. It doesn't hit very hard. But the thing is that, again, more of a contrast could have been introduced within the service. And I feel actually people often go, oh, Wrathion is super arrogant, right? He's super arrogant. He is arrogant to a level. And speaking as someone with an ego myself, that can be quite an engaging point.
This is something I've been thinking a lot about. He has a bit of arrogance, but mostly what he has is confidence and bravado. Yeah, thank you. But that is mostly a front. It's a mask he wears in order to deal with a world that's very hostile to him for the most part. You know, this is why he has bodyguards. It's why he has Black Talon, things like that. That's why he gave himself the title of Prince. All he has is his reputation that he's kind of had to build from the ground up.
And the thing is that BFA then showed Wrathion upon reflection. You can say that Wrathion's arrogant all you like, but arrogance is used for particular things. Arrogance can keep you safe and it can keep you going despite people's doubts in you, right? Having at least confidence in oneself. And the thing is I'm actually one of those people who says arrogance isn't all that bad. It keeps you confident, keeps you believe in yourself going strong. But they also forget that real arrogance is not being able to reflect on one's own actions. Wrathion reflects
you have a
on his
cutscene? Okay.
actions.
No, I'm dwaddling like
Sorry,
usual.
I'm a little go-getter. Being the paladin tag. By the way, listeners, Still is playing this through on a healer, so...
I really like how Wrathion shifts back and forth between his dragon form and his mortal form. Almost like he's more comfortable fighting in his mortal form, which kind of makes sense because he was raised as a rogue by Ravenholt.
Yeah, actually touching on that again, Wrathion definitely more inclined
he's
towards the mortal
lived amongst them,
races.
kind of
Essentially
existed
been
amongst them
raised as a
more.
mortal, even though he has powers with dragon. And once again, just me raising an eyebrow, a very good story is actually touching upon treating Wrathion in a sense of a stranger within the Dragon Arms. Having almost and speaking as someone who's a second generation migrant, child of migrants here, and my own background, and my own heritage in a sense with the family too, it's a very weird feeling when one is raised in a culture and then said, well, this is your actual culture. So Wrathion's like, I'm surrounded by mortals. I'm a dragon though, I'm a dragon. It's a very different deal when you actually, in a sense, in this case with Wrathion, meeting the real deal, really meeting your culture. Wrathion feeling very out of sorts when faced with his culture. And that would actually make you feel very nervous. And that could be used to explain Wrathion's actions and Wrathion's bravado and his rashness and his perhaps even that bit of childishness coming out in 10.0. I don't think it's conveyed very well. I feel like it's like, well, Wrathion would of course act like this because he wants to fight someone for title of aspect rather than any sort of quiet quest. And this is the thing that 10.0 is really lacking in, any quiet quest with Wrathion or Sibelian. We don't actually have any quest to learn more about Sibelian. We don't have actually any quest to learn about Wrathion's point of view. And these characters don't need to stand there and tell us their feelings about this, but the people around them, the other characters around them can talk with us. We can create a narrative around these characters about their feelings of the situation, and we can infer all we like in these situations. Like we can say, well, of course it's that with Wrathion, but we have no definitive contextualism within the game. The narrative doesn't tell us this. The side quest doesn't tell us this. We don't get flavor text. We don't get any sort of like offshoots to a quest describing how Wrathion may feel upset or out of his depth in this situation and interacting with Sibelian, who is a dragon who actually comes from a draconic culture. A Sibelian does have that draconic culture, and he is surrounded by dragons. His family are dragons. He would care less about mortal races. His priority is that of dragons. Wrathion is a dragon, but he is not entrenched in draconic culture. And that passes on to very real life experiences in a sense of usually being a migrant or a person returning to one's culture. And it can be, like I said, there's a reason for culture shock and things like that, and how one needs to approach one's heritage with a certain level of respect. And it can be scary. And this is okay to convey in those characters. Having negative feelings and acting in ways that are out of character for yourself are perfectly okay if they're grounded within the story that you were telling. And I do think that was missing a lot in 10.0. It was play for laughs. I'm just going to be real and honest.
That is kind of what it felt like. All the other Dragonflights got these,
people may look back on,
serious storylines about finding companionship and belonging and reconnecting with family. Oh yeah, Caligos.
Caligos was treated with
he had his funny moments, but we got some really heartwarming moments with him. And then the return of some of the blue dragons at the end.
Again, it was that sort of review and respect to the importance of one's own heritage and respecting that, and also understanding the idea that home sometimes isn't just a place, it's a people. Certainly there is an inherent connection to peoples to the land that they come from, and there is no taking away from that, but quite often one can look at a group of people and say, this is my type of family. And that is something that Wrathion has been missing, in a sense. Anyway, you're up to the cutscene yet, Missy. So thoughts on that?
Oh my god. Wathion's line about having muck on his boot. oh my god.
Again, it's a joke.
Yeah, it's like another thing where being overly concerned about his visage's appearance is played for laughs, and I feel increasingly uncomfortable with the amount of times that comes up.
Again, they're using jokes, and jokes are fine. Wrathion is a funny character. He has had some very, very funny moments where we're laughing along with Wrathion. And there's a difference between laughing at Wrathion and laughing alongside Wrathion when he does things that are ridiculous, like the bit in Pandaria where he's wielding, his lightning spear and Anduin is sitting behind him on the wall. I have the power of God and anime on my side, says Wrathion in the loud tone. He's pumping himself up and telling these grand tales. And also as the viewer, I'm having to laugh at this teenage boy who's ordering us around and waving his grand spear with grand schemes. It's funny. We're laughing alongside him in the sense of his great plot, and we're yes, we're getting cool items out of this, and it isn't reducing the character at all. We're learning about him. His comedy is adding to his characterization.
I know, he can't get a break. So before we started playing this, I went through some of Noble's old videos and his more recent videos on the Black Dragonflight and Wrathion in particular, just to refresh my memory, and I stumbled across the one he did for Visions of N'Zoth, which included clips of Wrathion's in-game dialogue. And I can't tell you how many times I have gone back to dig up stuff from the Visions of N'Zoth quests, just convinced I must have totally misinterpreted something. I cannot have gotten the right read on this character, only to find out what happened was exactly the way I remember it happening, what I saw with my own eyeballs and heard with my own ears. I was particularly struck this time after having seen how he is in Dragonflight, going back to how he was in 8.3. He's very serious. He's kind of quiet. He has a lot of quiet moments. He's thoughtful. He has humor, but it's a dry sense of humor. He's not the comic relief. And I totally forgot how world weary he sounded in Visions of N'Zoth. That was what surprised me the most, was you really feel the weight in his voice. He is very aware of the seriousness of the situation. He sounds burdened by whatever he's been researching over the past several years between WoD and BFA. And it's very jarring going from that to this, where he suddenly, quips. There's just quips happening constantly. We don't really get the sense that he's taking much seriously. It's just a very different vibe.
I don't want to say it, but we've talked about this too before, me and Sel. Marvel writing. There's nothing wrong inherently with Marvel writing. It's good in small doses, but it's
sweet and humor,
incrementally like Buffy writing.
Just like a non-stop ride of
characters.
cleverness.
Yes. Yeah, a non-stop ride of quips. Oh, I'm writing this character quippy and they're funny and they're smart. Enough. There's nothing wrong with that style of writing, but it's noticeable when it's applied to a character in this sort of situation. He has been reduced very much down to the character with the quips. Death of 1,000 cuts.
Like, I don't really think the individual lines, with a few exceptions, are particularly bad on their own. I just think everything together is a lot. Like with the egg cart scene in 10.0 where they're transporting the eggs, on paper, I actually do think a lot of that dialogue is funny. It's just, I'm not in the mood for this, are we there yet? Style comedy bit between them when Wrathion has already been acting so bizarre.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, out of character. Yeah. If they would have presented this Wrathion in this patch and 10.0 very much followed his BFA characterization, and then we got this character, I'd be like, whoa, yeah, holy shoot, there's something going on here. If they didn't want to pace themselves with the whispers and wanted to introduce the whispers, boom, on this patch, like, we're not going to have a build up to this, and we're not going to have the characters being nervous about corruption in 10.0, and we're just getting straight into this. We're running into it, and we're just introducing the whispers as soon as we're going down to this cabin. Let's go. Okay, that perhaps would have worked better in comparison. But like you said, Sil, how Wrathion was written in 10.0 and now how he's written in 10.1, there isn't enough of a distinctive change between how he's acting. And they can say the whispers all they want, but that sort of steadiness in the build, the pacing in regards to introducing this plot point isn't handled the best. So anyway, do you want to just smash through all these quests now? We're getting right into the deep of it, and we've got another quest coming, well, another line coming up that's egregious to say the least. So we'll smash through these quests, get through to Loamm, to Loaf, where I'm going to be.
I gotta say, I do like Honeypelt a lot. I think she's a really cute character. Yeah, this is like Midwestern
or American here, Minnesota
for sure. American Midwestern. Oh, hey, there you are.
I mean, being Australian, you would never tell from my accent, but hello. Yeah, we're gonna go smash some of these slices here, some creatures down here, while we run around and find our little prompts here for the quest. I know it's difficult to get good Australian accents, but the come from a land down under.
Yes, that is the most egregious part of this patch, is that they missed out on the Australian jokes.
Oh, missed out on the Australian jokes. If there's a chance to take the piss out of Australians, I am there for it. We're insufferable. We are an insufferable people. Okay, there we go. We're heading up here. As you can see, me and Sil
our
together.
Tank and healer DPS combined gives us about as much power as like a single DPS.
Tank and healer DPS. But notably, we can just pull every single Jaredin later into one huge bunch and smash them all. So that's one huge positive in this situation. Okay, given the all clear to Honeypelt here. And the general experience of these, by the way, like if we're just getting both the plot and the experience of these quests generally, this isn't bad. Like I said, it's not my favorite sort of quest, running around clicking things while killing stuff. It's okay. Like I said, these are just our average like bread and butter quests. Nothing wrong with these.
It's another thing that happened in 8.3. Always a delightful experience. I like being useful.
Always a delightful experience. We're helping out here. Clicking on stuff. There's actually a quest later on in this plotline, which I am actually going to rave about because the mechanics tied into the actual plot done brilliantly. It's really, really good use of WoW's mechanics and the actual story quest to keep up the intensity of the story quest. And I'm just going to whisper to the side here.
Oh, I love that bit. Yeah, that's so much fun.
In the quest through the Shadow Flame.
Any quest that incorporates dragon riding, 10 out of 10.
That's
really good time. I love it.
And it's not only that, it's the experience of that. It keeps up the pace of the storytelling. It provides an intensity to the storytelling. But then again, I think chapter 3 in this scenario questline, I don't want to call it the MSQ for obvious reasons.
Oh, there we go. Smells like
God.
spices and expensive oils with just a note.
Okay, so we're...
I'm actually feeling physical pain here.
Blasted crystals. They are blocking my ability to transform.
Would you like to lead the conversation in this cell? Because I'm actually genuinely angry. Through all of my critiques and stuff, I'm actually pretty good-natured in regards to most of this. It gets me a little bit discheesed, but I'm not fuming. However, this makes me actually fucking mad. So I'm actually
Okay,
fucking angry
I guess
about
I'll get
that.
us started
So,
here.
anyway, lead the
So I feel
conversation.
like I needed to start with a little bit of a preamble because what we're about to talk about, people try to excuse these things sometimes by saying, oh, Wrathion is not a human, he is a dragon. How could this be a problem? So I just wanted to start out by pointing out that Wrathion's visage has some pretty clear Swana and South Asian influences. Swana, for those who don't know, stands for Southwest Asia, North Africa, and this includes the Middle East. Most obviously, his visage has brown skin and dark brown, black textured hair, although it's a little less textured in the artwork for Hearthstone and WoW, but that doesn't... Well, no, I mean...
It doesn't
you know,
matter. It
people
makes us
from
furious.
those areas do
But
have
it doesn't matter to this
hair
conversation.
type. It's not uncommon.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's just a matter of how the character has more curly hair and darker skin in game than in art outside, and it's whitewashing to a certain extent. And like you said, Sil, like 100% people from Swana regions and South Asian regions can very much have smooth hair and like. But the thing is that Wrathion has very specifically textured hair. Yes,
some other details
Totally
that I
correct.
wanted to point
Continue.
out involved his visage's clothing, and I know next to nothing about fashion. I did my best to try and research this, but if I butcher anything and anyone watching notices, feel free to leave a comment in this YouTube video, or you can DM me on Twitter and I can always record an addendum and add notes to the video and stuff like that. So first of all, there's his decorated turban, which he had in Mop.
Yeah.
Which is very common in Swana and South Asian men's fashion. Hey everyone, it's Silriven. I'm already adding edits to this video. I just wanted to mention that turbans are also worn for religious reasons and also for practical reasons, such as shielding your head from the sun. There's his red and gold embroidered sash called the cummerbund that he wears around his waist, which originates from the uniforms of Indian infantrymen. His sword, Succession, is a scimitar, which is a type of curved one-sided blade that comes from regions in North Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia. The type of pointed toe with the extended curled tip on his boots, I think is called a nok, N-O-K-H, and is commonly found on a style of men's shoe called the mojari. And then I think his baggy loose pants could be considered reminiscent of certain types of shalwar, but I'm really not sure about that. The point is that these are all cohesive design details that were done intentionally.
Even if they don't line up one to one, we can certainly see the influence there too. So like everything that you said there is correct. There is an implication there. If you have eyeballs, you can see this. You can see the connections between these points. The influences.
Yeah, the point being that
Wrathion's
his visage is
design,
clearly
essentially. So yep.
intended to be representative of a region that falls under the Swana acronym, or South Asian. Getting to this line where Honeypelt describes Wrathion's scent as being reminiscent of spices, expensive oils, and flop sweat. So first of all, I had no idea what flop sweat was when I first saw this. I had to look it up, and people who don't know, it just means a nervous sweat. So this line kind of raises eyebrows because it's basically a stereotype that people of color, particularly people from the Middle East and South Asia, sweat more and have especially bad body odor than people of other ethnicities, mainly white people. So even though this is a patch with a new race whose defining characteristic is that they have a very strong sense of smell, it still feels pointed and a little weird, like Wrathion is being singled out to be the butt of a joke for some reason. Even the line that Honeypelt says before this, oh, your friend spends a lot of time trying to smell nice, could be indicative that his cologne is too strong or there's something else funky going on. It's just very ambiguous and weird. And this isn't even the only time this happens in this patch. Later on, a completely different character makes a comment about how Wrathion's brother, Abyssian, looks like a Tauren and smells like one in a way that's clearly meant to be derogatory. And this comment doesn't come from a Nithhin character. This comes from a human. There's like 2 times that pungent smells come up with relation to. When I first heard that the new reputation-based race that was being added in this patch was a group of characters whose defining characteristic was that they smelled really well, I had the passing thought, oh, I bet there's going to be some really juvenile jokes that come out of this. And then the thought left my head, and now we're here. All right, so that's the first part, is that stereotype. And there's also a second stereotype that people from South Asia tend to smell like spices, particularly curry. And as an example, in the description of this video, I'm going to link to an article from a woman who talks about her experience dealing with this stereotype all throughout her life, particularly one incident where her boss fired her because she refused to wear a cologne or a perfume that he'd bought for her because he thought she smelled like curry and didn't want her offending the customers that she was serving as a waitress, which is horrible. And there's other examples you can find of people who talk about their experience with this. So in any other game, this might have gotten a pass. There's a certain amount of leeway that people tend to give, like, oh, maybe this was not thought out that well, or that wasn't their intention, which could have been the case with this. But WoW has been pretty terrible about handling race, ethnicity, and culture in the past. It's been basically this ongoing process for WoW to drag itself into a better place with regards to diversity in the game and kind of care with how they're dealing with races and characters who are representative of real world people of color. It took them 16 years to add more diverse features to humanoid characters. So that was kind of my introduction to this. Do you have anything to add, Sam?
Well, other than my bit again that I'm furiously angry, I'm laughing, but only rage resides in my heart at the moment. I think it was very inappropriate. It does actually make me wonder whether they had any sort of sensitivity writers reading over this, because sensitivity writers are often third parties to general companies who, you know, check over content. You and I gave feedback on this very, very early on in the PTR, and we made it clear that these are the issues, and it's not something that's alien to people who are white. If you have a job, for example, like I'm in law and I'm in a very, very particular area of law that needs to be very aware about matters of race, how we approach things that may be racially insensitive, or just be aware of certain issues in regards to how we conduct ourselves. When I say I don't feel like there was any sensitivity writer checking these parts of these quests, I don't mean that the writers should have gone to someone in the company and said, is this okay for us to add this? Because if the writers went to someone who isn't white within Blizzard themselves and asked, is this okay? I'm going to bring up an issue of undue influence. The undue influence is that a person works for Blizzard, and you can't ask people within your own company, is this okay? Do you find this okay? They're just overreacting. That person, whether they feel it or not, or whether they're talking honestly, there will always be an overhanging cloud of undue influence in regards to that person saying something that will appease the people around them so that they may remain in their position. And this is the real awkward element to sensitivity checking. You can't have people who are directly involved in your game to be doing the sensitivity checking.
Someone who can give you objective feedback without having to worry about retaliation or hurt feelings or something like that.
Yeah, and like I said, Blizzard is very contentious at the moment in regards to people not maintaining employment in that company. It just really comes to a head in regards to a very difficult situation. I'll just say this again, more care should have been taken with this. And again, Wrathion, Sibelian, Abyssian are characters that you need to handle with a bit more care in regards to writing, because the thing is that how your players will receive those characters is in direct complement to how you write them. And unfortunately, Blizzard's player base also has a racism issue, to say the least. How you depict those characters and how you either undermine them or uplift them, very dependent on your writing. And you don't want to give ammunition to people who want to not take the best faith takes on these characters. So you need to be aware when writing this.
This could have been given the okay by a sensitivity reader. When I was looking up discussion that people were having online about this, there was definitely like a split opinion. Like some people were like, oh yeah, this is definitely racist. And other people were like, well, I wouldn't call it racist, but it definitely makes me feel uncomfortable. It's possible that someone could have given the okay. Like, I don't know. You don't know.
Yeah. And that's the thing, we don't really know. People aren't having a great experience with this. And I think that's one thing that WoW devs always try and push, that they want people to have a good experience with their games. This creates a not great experience.
I don't get why
and it's not a part
you would want to even toe that line. You know what I mean? Because WoW has had developers sticking racial slurs into titles for their Caribbean African based troll races. People's goodwill and not excuses, but their willingness to kind of like be like, okay, this might have been an accident. You know, that has been
like
Blizzard has like none of that left, particularly with World of Warcraft. Everything they're doing now with regards to adding more diversity, taking more care with the way certain fantasy races are represented, like the Tuskar and the Centaur and the Trolls, of course, is damage control at this point. Why would you want to even toe that line? Is this line really that humorous? Is it that precious to you that you would want to even risk that?
Exactly. Does it spark joy? No. And I know that someone was maybe proud of that line and they thought it was like the height of comedic genius when they wrote it. But it certainly isn't, unfortunately. And I think enough people are given feedback in regards to that to consider that. So you take 2 steps forward with the Tuskar and the Centaur, then you take 3 steps back with the writing of actually darker skinned characters who look human. Like, they may be dragons, but they're human and they are coded to be specific equivalent ethnicities of people in real life. And that isn't good. That can be our sort of concluding point on that. It isn't good and it isn't essential to the plot. Just fucking remove it. It isn't worth it. It makes some of your players feel incredibly uncomfortable. It's better to remove it now rather than let it linger and rot inside of this game that already has enough problems as it. When it comes to, I'm doing the YouTuber sigh here, so it really isn't needed, and it really they could have literally just said.
I don't
a lot of time
understand why they didn't just describe his clone. As a fanfic writer, I love the validation that Wrathion's visage includes clone. When you first told me about this line, I couldn't even process it, and I was trying so hard to bend over backwards. Do you remember? I was like, oh, well, it kind of humanizes him that he's nervous and sweating, I guess. And then I woke up and I had some coffee and I realized the game I was playing. I was like, oh no, this is a joke about Wrathion's character. This was written as a joke for the type of cis male who plays this game and would find it funny that a male character would put that much thought into his appearance, you know, just like the line about his boots.
Yeah, and like I said, if the writers are trying to imply something alongside Wrathion's attention to detail of his appearance, I know that there is a lot more diversity in WoW's writing team at the moment too, but you can't turn everything into a joke, or at least pace it better. There's times for delivery, and there's times for pacing, and there's times to have a bit of a cheeky, like, in-jokey, winky, you know, yeah, Wrathion likes paying attention to his appearance. He loves looking nice, you know, stuff like that. And you need to consider who is the main group of WoW's player base. And it's not people who are people of color. It is not people who are LGBT+. It's a very certain person who would treat us like a joke. Keeping that in mind, that you don't deliver responses to those groups as continuous jokes within your writing for this character. That's all I'm going to say on it. So
I knew we were going to have to take time to
That's all I've got to say on it now. I've said my piece.
The last thing that I wanted to say now that we've moved past the serious stuff is I don't understand why they didn't just describe what his clone is. Spices and expensive oil tells me nothing, Blizzard. Like, what scent does he wear? Is it mahogany, oak, sage, vanilla? We've been denied a canon, quote unquote, example of what Wrathion's preferred scent profile is. This is the real lore we need, Blizzard. Inquiring minds need to know what scent Wrathion prefers. Can you imagine if they'd given him an actual scent, how that would have rippled out into his pocket fan communities? It would have started cropping up in fanfic and stuff like that. I don't know how many people were involved with getting this bit of dialogue into this game, but the power these people had, and they blew it. Like,
another Blizzard L. Blizzard taking the L's once again.
Please leave a comment about what type of clone you think Wrathion would prefer. I really want to know.
I want to know. Are we going some woody oak textures here?
Would it be smoky? It would probably be smoky because he's a dragon.
So the real question is, how is anyone smelling anything when he's just been blasted by Farak
we're all
here?
charred.
So, because we'd all be smelling like smoke and ash here. We'd all be missing our eyebrow, hair on fire. It'd be a nightmare. It'd be a nightmare for these Niffins
One last
noses.
thing,
So,
I have to
anyway,
give my citations here. So there were some discussions from players of color that I came across while researching this. In the description, I am going to link to a few Twitter threads from Ball the Warlock, who does a a lot of work writing about race, ethnicity, culture, and religion, and how all of that applies to the fantasy races and lore in World of Warcraft. He has a pinned tweet on his Twitter profile where you can find a thread with links to his other writing on Twitter. And then I am also going to link to a thread on the WoW story forums where this is brought up. It's a very long thread that's mostly about the races of the Horde and was 1,590 posts long the last time I checked. And there's a lot of noise from people trying to defend or excuse the line, no matter how many times people tried to explain what's fishy about it. My favorite is, don't you know that perfumes are made out of oil? Yes. Very good. You passed chemistry. Here's a gold star. That's not relevant to what we're talking about here.
Someone pointed out, too, that I think colognes actually have water bases in its perfumes.
Yeah, there you go. We're all learning a lot about cologne here.
I'm even learning stuff here.
I will also list some individual links to the more relevant and informative posts in that thread, including some from one person who talks about their personal experiences with this. Okay, I'm done now.
Deep breaths. We're done.
All right, we're gonna blow through this. We got through the roughest part.
Chapters 1 and 2 are definitely the roughest. Chapter 3
is that the one where Aspelion and Abyssian goes to hunt down Farok? That is the highlight of this patch. I love that bit.
Yes,
I will probably get quieter during that part because I will just be listening to the dialogue. I don't know if this is going to be explained more in the cutscenes, but they lose track of him. He kind of disappears and then comes back and then disappears again. It's not clear what he's been doing, if he actually found Aberrus. So that's one thing I'm hoping that the cutscenes will clarify is, has he actually accomplished anything this patch? Did he do what he set out to do? Okay, yeah, don't spoil it for me.
I'm not spoiling anything. I'm not spoiling anything. I'm not saying anything. Trust me, I'm not a hater. This is just making me. I tease. But yes, let's get to it, certainly. Here. Okay. Thank you. We're stealing these creatures.
How kind of them to leave gold for us in their corpses.
After listening to you boast about how you slew N'Zoth single-handedly.
It was a team effort, something you are incapable of understanding.
He's already said father, dearest.
We
father.
are the Black Dragonflight. That means something. Neltharion would never have fallen to such a foe.
Comparing yourself to Daddy, dearest? You have shown your true colors.
Again,
that is your aspiration.
people be like, oh, it's the Whispers. People are acting like this upstairs, true. Like, it's not... Again, pacing. If you wanted to include the Whispers, you wanted to include the Whispers. Pacing is king. Experience and thinking. And this is not a great experience in the sense of like how often they fight. And people are,
I know I just kind of talked a lot, but should I get into my little rant about all of this? I'm basically going to say some stuff that you already said, but this really irks me, so I have to get it off my chest. Okay, so the premise here is that the old gods' whispers are much stronger underground to the point where it's affecting Sibelian and Wrathion's behavior. Hence why they're acting so out of character, why Wrathion is rushing into the battle we just went through, their dialogue back and forth at each other, and why they just yelled at each other right now. That is the idea that the story was trying to convey. In my opinion, this only works if Sibelian and Wrathion are acting differently underground than they are on the surface. And they just are not. You've already said this. They've been fighting like this pretty much since they met in patch 10.0. The only difference between what we just saw and the egg cart scene is that Sibelian is actually shouting at Wrathion instead of being a hair trigger away from shouting at him. Wrathion has been impatiently charging into danger and overestimating his strength pretty much since he landed on the Dragon Isles, even a little bit in the Drakthir starting zone. This is made explicit. Major Domo tells him, patience, Wrathion, in an exasperated tone at one point. Wrathion charges off to confront Raszagath on his home and would have been killed by her. He charges at Raszagath a second time when he goes to save Alexstrasza, and then after is too impatient to wait for the Red Dragonflight to finish their work that they're doing with saving the eggs, and he goes off to do his thing to reclaim the Obsidian Citadel, despite the fact that it's heavily implied that his black talent aren't going to be enough to overtake the Citadel. Again, overestimating his strength. He has that line about how he's like, oh, well, we also have me. Like, that will be the defining turning point in the battle, which I don't think he's ever done that before. He's always struck me as a character who's very aware of his weaknesses. Like in 8.3, he didn't march into the throne room and was like, oh, Anduin, I'm going to take down the Zoth by myself. That whole patch is about him painstakingly building up resistance to N'Zoth, doing all this research.
Magni, Mother, they were all working together. And Wrathion's like, I'm going to do the horrific vision. Magni at that point was like, oh, watch out, this is really dangerous and stuff. And Wrathion was like, look, as long as we're all working together, this will be fine. Trust me on this. And it did. Yeah, it was like it's dangerous. It's kind of wild that we're using the corruption to fight the corruption because we're getting steadily more immune to it via our research. It had a distinct plan to it. It had Mother, it had all the other, it had Chromie in there, Kalagos, Byssian. Yeah, everyone in here. It had all the champions and we had the heart of Azeroth. We had so much support and Wrathion points it out. And in this, it's just like,
now is the time for dragons to be dragons. He acts like this above ground too. I'm not even done listing all of the times he impatiently charges into stuff. Like there's the egg cart scene. He doesn't think they need Emberthal or the Drakthir to take on Frock. For some reason, even though Razagath was the weakest of the Primalists and he didn't stand a chance against her, he suddenly thinks that he, Sibelian, Abyssian, and us are enough to take down Frock for some reason. He doesn't wait for Abyssian before descending into this cavern in the first place, which I think is really weird because why would he want to go into this dangerous situation with Sibelian, who he hates and has a very contentious relationship with? Why would he not want his brother, who he knows and has worked with before? I don't understand that. And even after this, it's not like he gets it together. He's still acting impatient and weird, which we'll get to. We will get to that. Okay, so you want to say that they're acting out of character because of the whispers, but that doesn't make any sense because compared to the rest of the expansion, they're not.
This is what I mean about pacing in World of Warcraft and how things are often introduced incredibly quickly and we're just supposed to accept them. And a lot of people playing this game say, yeah, okay, it's that. If Wrathion knew he was going to be coming down here and they had a general idea that this has something to do with Neltharion's, I want to say legacy, but it can just be things leading us to Neltharion. Like just then, Sibelian's like, wait, hold on, I recognize that. That's one of Neltharion's things. And even in the Obsidian Citadel, and how there's ominous rocks floating around in Obsidian Citadel that look very much like the ones from Ankh-Kajak, or however you pronounce it, the vanilla raids that I absolutely love with the bugs. The bug raids, it's old god stuff. You're telling me that Wrathion has absolutely no preparedness just for the possibility he has none of those potions just in case they get corrupted. And once again, yes, the whispers are old god corruption down here. Duh. Like, you need to be thick to be like, well, wait, no, it's just Neltharion's, words echoing to us. Come on, get real. Anyway, like me being dismissive here. So you're telling me that Wrathion had no backup potions. He had no plans to ward off corruption just in case they ran into corruption. And like I said, we can use the frog boiling in a pot issue again. But then that requires some sort of pacing earlier in the story. What would have been better if they would have found some sort of corrupted iconography or some sort of corruption within Obsidian Citadel? This inherent tie to Neltharion and the Drakthir and all this. Wrathion, if he was written like BFA, he's like, okay, we're running into things
I don't know. I don't understand why his knowledge of how to combat corruption and to defend himself against the old god's whispers is just not brought up at all. Not how he saved Abyssian. He's the only reason why Abyssian is even able to be here on the Dragon Isles. It's the only reason why he can leave High Mountain is because Wrathion. I always thought it was something that Wrathion had to continuously brew for him. It was something that wore off or something like that, but maybe it was a one and done thing. Either way, right. This is Abyssian a booster.
Kids, go get your vaccinations.
every 6 months or so.
Kids Abyssian a booster.
That was kind of why I liked how in that cutscene he was the first one to kind of notice, like, oh, did you hear that? It's better than nothing. I'm happy.
We can retcon this all the way at the end of it and just be like, oh, that's like it's a corruption or whatever. So there we go. Again, though, it just totally forgets Wrathion's character. It gives no time to say, okay, so Wrathion did this, and this in the previous expansion, so he should be prepared for this at least. No, again, it's that regression of his character. It's regressed him back to almost before BFA, and you can be like, oh, well, it's because of the,
no, okay, that is the most generous read of the story that I can give is that the pressure to become Aspect, being so close
Very
and yet so far with this new wrench that Sibelian has thrown into the works, is causing Wrathion to just completely fall apart. He's falling to pieces. I don't dislike that as a basic premise at all. I really like it when my favorite characters have to deal with problems, and this is a big problem to throw at Wrathion. The angst potential is off the chart. I love the concept. But the thing about that is we don't get hints as to how he's supposed to be. There's not even hints that he's, on the whole, acting weird or different. You know, we don't get any little snippets of dialogue from his Black Talon talking about, oh, hey, the boss is acting weird. He's been acting strange ever since we got to the Dragon Isles. It's kind of concerning. Well, we better keep an eye on him to make sure he's okay. Stuff like that. Left and right don't talk to him. And we don't have to be present. This could be just stuff that we overhear as our characters. Abyssian doesn't take him aside privately, not in front of Sibelian, and say, Wrathion, this isn't like you. What's going on? And maybe Wrathion could just be defensive and not confide in Abyssian at that point, whatever. But the point is that we're not getting clues or hints that this is out of character for Wrathion. This just seems like the way he's going to be written from now on, which is disappointing.
We're vaguely psychic to all of our listeners. We know that this is going to probably, how they're writing Wrathion at the moment, probably reduce at the end of this patch. Because then the whole, wow, Wrathion has learned from his mistakes, or he's learned in regards to his legacy. This isn't what he wants. Some sort of conclusion. I'm using the word conclusion very loosely there. They needed this sort of regression to tell this story, unfortunately. And it is pretty clear for someone who's engaged with Wrathion's character for more than just this expansion. New player, wouldn't notice the difference, wouldn't know about his character. All of his stuff is removed from game. As someone who doesn't really care for his character, yeah, sure, this is just how Wrathion is, arrogant, blah, blah, blah. Very surface level read of the character, not much introspection. Also, this poor paladin next was suffering. I'll help him out. Very little introspection into his character, I think. And then you also got then us.
I forgot to start this video with the warning that I was going to do, which is that if you don't like Wrathion or you really love the way he's been written in Dragonflight, you are not going to like this video. It's too late for you if you reach this point, but I totally forgot I was going to say that.
Perhaps now we've opened your eyes a little bit. There's nothing wrong with being biased in a sense of enjoying a character. We want the best for the character, you know.
I want him to suffer in a good way.
We want him to have troubles. We want him to make foolish mistakes. I want him to suffer in a good way, in a way that I can be like, yes, this will promote character growth, but not belittle the character. That is the major part of this. Do not belittle a character or undermine a character's writing to then prop up another character, Abyssian, to then create a storyline. There could have been much better deliveries in regards to this story, but this is what we have. Even this could have been improved in certain ways in regards to making all the characters not undermine their own specialities, their talents, their histories. To start point. Anyway,
so,
do you want to race through these?
I have one last thing that I want to say.
Yeah.
Specifically about the fight that they just had.
One last thing.
So a lot of these fights between Wrathion and Sibelian seem to be written for the kind of old school WoW player who's been around since Classic, early Burning Crusade, who think, I bet Sibelian could wipe the floor with this loser every time Wrathion, quote unquote, the last Black Dragon has shown up. And I just want to say I'm very happy for these people. I'm so glad they finally got what they wanted, because one of my problems with these fights is that Wrathion he doesn't hold his own in them. The problem is that Sibelian just sounds too cool. Like, even when he's shouting, you tend to empathize with him because Wrathion is being written
That's the point.
In a more annoying way.
Yeah.
The dialogue that just happened when Sibelian was like, oh, I should have expected more from the dragon who claims he slew N'Zoth single-handedly. I just want to be like, Wrathion, he aimed below the belt. Like, you have to go for the throat. This is where you call him a coward for staying on Outland and, not being on Azeroth to even deal with N'Zoth. Like, come on. I know you can insult people. Yeah. You're a rogue. You were raised around these people. I just want to coach him. Like, come on, be meaner.
The old one too, Wrathion. And more than just saying his stupid shoes or his unlikable face, there are some things that Sibelian cannot make excuses for. And that is one of them. And there's a lot of things Sibelian can't make excuses for.
It's definitely not brought up at all during that bit in 10.0 where you're talking to both sides of the Black Dragonflight and hearing defenses for what Wrathion's done, and you're hearing Sibelian's dragons talk about what they don't like about Wrathion. I don't think it ever comes up what Sibelian did with, was he Neltharion or was he Deathwing? I started playing during Legion, so I had to do a lot of research to get caught up with a lot of this lore.
He would have been around, he would have been quite young for Neltharion's corruption, but he would have known that Neltharion was corrupted. It's one of those things where it's like,
you know what's also weird is that at the end of 10.0, like right after the egg transport scene, Alexstrasza tells Sibelian, your eggs are welcome here, but you've earned no such privilege. And then in the very next scene, he's in the Ruby Life Pool, standing there with Alexstrasza looking at the eggs. And I was like, wait a minute, I thought he wasn't allowed in here.
Consistency. It's one of those things that I don't think anyone's really talked at length about, how the red dragonflight would be receptive to the black dragonflight being there, and how the black dragonflight, as per Wrathion didn't want to talk to red dragons. So that's very, very telling. He's like, unless I talk to red dragons, the better. One thing that dragonflight is severely lacking is interactions between dragonflights, and I think that's why the old red dragon and now interacting with the black dragons has been so well received. It's some actual interaction between flights that is more than just, we are allies and we are working together. It's a little bit of their history. You could say, oh, well, what about Wrathion and Alexstrasza in the egg scene? Well, it's a very mixed bag, and I feel like they may have overlooked Wrathion's, I'd actually say, fear of Alexstrasza.
Yeah, they don't really touch on that at all. They do bring up that he's an experiment quite a bit. They did it in the short story, and I know that comes up later in the Aberrus raid, but who made him? It was that red dragon in the Badlands. I have developed my own headcanons for this. The way I interpret some of the stuff in 10.0 is I feel like Alexstrasza does feel responsible for Wrathion to some extent, and she has more patience for him because she understands and feels bad about what happened to his mother, his creation, him feeling like he needed to escape from the red dragonflight, those red dragons trying to enslave him. So that's the way I've been leaning, but that is all stuff I have extrapolated in my own head. There's not really much in text apart from Alexstrasza being kind to Wrathion. Oh god, Wrathion. Everyone knows I'm a fake fan. I thought I broke myself of that habit.
You just pronounce it the French way, Wrathion.
So yeah, there's that, but that's a huge tangent.
Sibelian. Timelines, how do they work?
We talked a lot about the crimes of the Black Dragonflight. Are we ever going to bring up that members of the Red Dragonflight were force breeding black dragons and doing horrible experiments on their babies? Is that going to come up ever? No? Okay. So I'm still clinging hopelessly to the idea that we'll get an Ixandra reference. We're so close. Someone's clearly gone back and revisited the Badlands quests, and I keep hanging on. Like, there could be a tiny mention of her.
Yeah.
We could get a little bit of lore. This is like Tiffin and Shadowlands all over again.
Dads. Question to whoever. When describing Wrathion and Abyssian smells, would you describe Jaina or Anduin smells?
You know what? I would. I personally would go into how much Anduin must have reeked coming out of the maw.
They stink.
Anduin smells like a gem. I think we all know. Deep down. He doesn't change out of that armor.
This is the thing. If you wouldn't write it for Anduin, don't write it for a lot of other characters. They're usual characters who are not visually representative of, they're not coded to be certain ethnicities, and they're not straight out and out people of color. Like I said, I don't want to point fingers, but it's certainly a choice. So yeah, I feel like it's like, what would Jesus do? No, it's, would you write this for Anduin? They need to put that on a board. Would you write this for Anduin? If a no, consider why you're writing it. Reconsider.
Anyway, I for one am looking forward to when Anduin returns and people talk about how much he stinks from being in the wilderness for months on end. That's all I'm saying, Blizzard, is I'm looking forward to that line, which I'm sure is going to be coming. I have one more thing to complain about, and this is really petty, but I was very irritated. I promise I'm not going to be like this for the rest of the patch. Okay, so Wrathion punching these bones. In Final Fantasy VIII, there's a character named Zeldinkt, and he is a very hyperactive, energetic fighter. He's what Tifa Lockhart was, so he punches things and very active, and he has a lot of energy. So in quiet moments of the game, this is what he does, is he'll be punching the air or something because he's idle and he needs to get his energy out. And I can't think of a character who is less like Wrathion than Zeldinkt. It's more of a personal irk. You know what? Maybe this is something Wrathion would do, but I am punching at these rib boats. Dude, you're gonna hurt your hands. Like, what are you doing? Please stop.
Again, I feel like Wrathion's like burst of anger. Like if he does,
Oh yeah, Wrathion definitely has a temper, but you need to save those moments. They need to be saved for special occasions when something very bad is happening.
You need to build it. It'd be like a shocking kind of moment, and especially now that he's older, I think that those would be obviously.
I'm done. That was it. That just had to get that off my chest.
Anyway,
over here.
slapping some bones. Thank you. We'll place the punch and bait to bringing this out here. Also, incredibly funny line was Wrathion coming in and said, "This beast is huge."
Like, what are you talking about?
Wrathion, you're bigger than
you're a dragon. I didn't even consider that. Thank you for that.
You are huge.
That is really funny.
Also, Wrathion's just standing here, by the way, kind of in awe. Oh, now he's cheering. Oh yeah.
I liked Wrathion's little,
Grandma. She's
I
also
need
got
to blow off
dementia.
some steam line. It's like, yeah, I bet you do.
God. Oh God. Me when I get this characterization. Need to blow off some steam. Okay.
Oh my God, sorry. I need
this
to
quest.
complain again. This is line. He's like, excellent move back there. Do not be shy. I saw how you tossed a new technique or two at that ferocious beast. Impressive as always, champion. ... Do you have any compliments for me? I don't understand. They gave him like a praise kink. I don't get it. It's so weird. Do you have any compliments for me? Okay, like I would totally compliment Wrathion if I was in World of Warcraft, but not to his face. I would be too embarrassed. I would get into bar fights to defend his honor and then lose horribly because I can't fight. To be fair though, I think I just have some kind of like visceral lesbian reaction to this. Like, why is a guy fishing for compliments from me in this video game? Could you not? Please. Why are you so insecure right now suddenly?
I'm a lesbian.
I don't understand. Okay, so that was just goofy. It's like, whatever. Okay, fine. It's just another paper cut on the pile. It's just like, okay, he said that, so that's from this game. Don't you have any compliments for me?
It's like, does anyone know Anduin's number? Does anyone know it?
He's got to come back.
He needs to come in here. We need to get him back in here. This man is going. He's going off the rails. We need the foils back.
Oh my God! And then again in this dialogue quest, as infuriating as I find Sibelian's lack of humor, groaning voice, and ugly shoes. Again with the shoes, I do appreciate these little moments where he's like checking on him. He's still family. I do not wish him to become dinner. And Honeypelt's line, they're making an effort with that.
Yeah, they're arguing like my cousins and stuff like that. But again, it's the sassiness. And I know they want to be like, haha, Wrathion, he's sassy, right, guys?
He has a dry sense of humor, which means he's the comic relief, right? That's how that works.
You don't need it in every quest.
I do like this line from Sibelian. I could hear you and Wrathion's yawping from all the way over there. Wrathion does like to talk. I do feel like that's something Sibelian would complain about. So that's good.
It's just easing off on the Wrathion's so sassy. Aren't I right, guys? Lines. Okay, take breathe. I like this. Like, oh my God, it's the whispers though.
I do really like this dialogue from Sibelian. His voice actor is so good, and I like these bits that give you insight into him being afraid of becoming like his father, Deathwing.
I feel like this is really good. It's like, okay, they're having a moment of quiet. Okay, we can get rid of a bit of Wrathion's sassiness here, and I like all of Sibelian's dialogue there. But again, then they undermine it later when they start arguing again. This builds into the pacing. You can have a moment where they're not arguing. You can have a win for these characters. You can give them a W. You can give them the big dubs here. But it's the pacing. When you're doing it all the time, it undermines your own narrative strength to the story. And already the whispers is slightly undermining the narrative strength because they're like, oh, well, it's the whispers while they're acting like this. I'm actually going to put in a point here in everyone's brains. If Wrathion hadn't been charging into chaos and giving everyone sassy lines 24/7 and stuff, imagine the build of them two arguing then.
If all the stuff that came before this was more restrained and they were cleverer, there was just this animosity that was just like in the air, tension, and then we get down here and they're screaming at each other. That would be impactful. It would pull us out and be like, oh, this is wow, they're really angry at each other. And then they'll be like, oh, the whispers. And it's like, oh, okay, that's why they're acting. But you need to have that contrast between more subdued fighting and quips and digging at each other. This is kind of a tangent, but I was watching the first Avengers movie a couple days ago, and this is something that they do really well with Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, Captain America and Iron Man. From the moment that they're both on the helicarrier, I think it's called, they're just circling each other other, barking at each other. They clearly are not getting along, and their fighting escalates to the point where they're making really personal jabs at each other. Captain America tells Tony Stark, "You're nothing without your suit," and Iron Man is like, "Oh, you're just a science experiment. Everything special about you came from a bottle." It escalates to the point where Captain America, who is generally a peaceful guy, is trying to goad Tony Stark into putting on the Iron Man suit so he can beat him up. And Tony's not doing it because he's trying to hold his own. But then there's an attack on the Helio character, and they immediately snap out of it, and they end up getting down to business and working together to solve this really big problem. And it's really cool. And they don't become friends after that. They still go back to having some animosity, but it's fine because when stuff hits the fan, they can pull it together. And we're kind of missing stuff like that from the Wrathion Sibelian conflict. They're not really working together. We have these like moments where they're kind of apologizing for their behavior, but not to each other. We just don't have that neat, crisp escalation and then that reprieve where we see them do something cool together. Maybe the raid will be like that. That's kind of what I'm hoping. You know, the raid will be that moment where they're working together and Wrathion is acting competently and there's less fighting. That's my tangent. That Avengers did this better. And the thing is that Steve Rogers and Tony Stark can kind of hold their own against each other. You kind of empathize with both characters, and they're both equally matched against each other, which is part of what makes it so fun to see them bounce off each other and bounce off the walls and drive other people up the walls with their fighting.
Exactly, and I think that the upcoming quest where Wrathion basically disappears out of the main plotline doesn't actually do it any favors. I think this should have included.
Yeah, it doesn't help that Wrathion just kind of disappears for a huge chunk of this storyline.
I do hope this isn't a quick fix of, oh, well, you know, we needed to give Bellion and Abyssian time to shine. That isn't the time to do this.
We get this really cool character building questline with Sibelian and Abyssian where they're connecting with each other, they're overcoming obstacles. We get insights into their talents and their strengths, and we learn more, especially about Sibelian's fears and his weaknesses. It's a really humanizing series of quests for Sibelian especially, and we don't have anything like that for Wrathion at all, either in 10.0 or in this patch 10.1. It's just absent, and I think that's part of what's lacking about Wrathion's character in this. We don't have humanizing moments for him where we understand what he's struggling with, see his side of things. You know, we might not agree with him, but at least we could empathize with him, and we just don't have that. I appreciate the heck out of this quiet moment. This is one of my favorite moments in the patch where he's helping Honeypelt field dress her game.
Again, it's not enough. Like what you were just saying there, you need to have a moment where it sort of exemplifies the character. It has a time to reflect with the character. This is good showing a small aspect of Wrathion's personality. People are like, oh, he's super arrogant. If he was super arrogant, he would not be carrying this old mole ladies with dementia's meat around on his clothes. A huge bit of soaking bloodied meat pressed against him.
Yeah, and Abyssian has a line later closer to the Avarice quest where he's like, oh, I know Wrathion won't pass up a chance to help people who are in need. And I'm just like, can we see him doing that in Dragonflight? Because he doesn't do that for Alexstrasza and the eggs. He doesn't do that for the Drakthir. He's just very annoying during the egg quest where Sibelian is trying to transport those eggs. He has to be goaded into helping Emberthal later after these quests. This is one of the rare moments where we actually see him helping someone.
Yeah, helping someone in the world. I pointed out in BFA and even in Pandora, even when he was a little bit of a bastard, he still had a lot of respect for a lot of different people, like the Celestials, Varian, equal respect between his enemies and his allies. And the thing is that he is willing to help his allies.
Okay,
like,
that particularly irks me because when has a character in WoW ever buttered Wrathion up? He's universally hated by a lot of characters. I cannot think of a single instance apart from maybe his Black Talon who've given him a compliment. Like, I was going back through the 8.3 quests, and the very first thing that anyone ever says about Wrathion in Battle for Azeroth is Caligos saying, though I am loath to mention him, I know someone who can help. You know, in regards to Abyssian, he's talking about Wrathion, though I am loath to mention him. So that's where he starts. What are you talking about, Abyssian? Everything he's done to fight the Burning Legion, do his stick with being a defender of Azeroth as a member of the Black Dragonflight. That's all stuff he feels out of a innate sense of duty he has as a Black Dragon, and as he thought the only remaining heir of Neltharion. That is a responsibility that he bore. He didn't help us battle N'Zoth because like people in Stormwind buttered him up and sought him out for his knowledge. The only reason why he wasn't decapitated on the spot when entering Stormwind is because Magni was with him and vouching for him. Even then, Anduin socked him in the middle of his court. That is a pet peeve that I have. Probably not important in the grand scheme of things, but that is something that annoys me.
I reported this in PTR. Sibelian and Wrathion have this. Oh, the same line again.
Also, he's like right there. I can see him from here.
Also, again,
he's right over.
Just
he's
a
right over
general
the
thing.
hill.
Like,
He beat you guys actually.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we can see you. And also, just as a minor quibble too, a couple of spelling errors. I thought this was all going to be like rubbed out of PTR a little bit, but yeah,
small potatoes.
Me looking at you, so anyway. But yes, yeah, that's small potatoes in the grand scheme of things.
Oh God, me too.
Look at my tweets. I'm a notorious misspeller. Ain't no one paying me for this. I ain't gonna spell check myself. Only spell check for money. Anyway.
Wrathion.
Okay, so we can see we're coming up to everyone here. Okay, everyone skipped ahead.
Okay, height watch.
Okay, Wrathion's still smaller than Sibelian here. Height watch, he's still smaller. Okay, so rightio.
Wrathion is still like Abyssian dwaddles while the incarnates breed destruction on our land. I tire of waiting for him to arrive. He's right there. Wrathion is Sibelian. Yeah, Sibelian.
Whoopsie daisies.
All right, well, Abyssion's here. And Emberthal. Okay, Niffin time.
Picking up our Niffin here to go talk to everyone. Very important.
I love Loamm.
I'm
It's
teasing.
so,
I actually don't mind
it's just
if I
so
find this, actually.
cute. I love like the little carpets on the floor and like the design of their dwellings.
You know what I'm really mad about though? You know, there's a bit in, for anyone not familiar with Final Fantasy XIV, the Lalafell in an alternate world, and as dwarves, have very tiny structures. And only other tiny races can go into their tiny structures. Like, you can't fit in if you're not a Lalafell. It would have been cute if gnomes and goblins and, oh, plain of Volpera, I was just going to talk about you, cutie pie. If gnomes, goblins, Volpera could fit into there, dwarves would have to like squeeze a little bit, like oil yourself up a little bit and squeeze in. Okay, Caligos is just a mirror image. Yeah, he's like, hold on guys, I need a week to warm up seeing Caligos do some stretches in front of us.
Is there a blue Dragonflight story this patch?
Yes, next week. Yeah, I think it will probably prompt you that, hero, we need some help, because this is our new sort of hub city for this patch, Loamm. So they need a quest you can interact with and just sort of engage with the blue Dragonflight story. Winky face. Excited for it. I mean, I'm saying excited. I mean, how I always talk about.
Calicos is also on my good list now because he was nice to Wrathion in the Vow Eternal. I mean, I always kind of liked him, but he's officially joined my favorite characters list.
Yes, like I said, from Caligos once being a bit of a pain in my butt, TM, he's all right. He's endeared himself to me, you know. His interactions with Jaina,
I'm not
like I said,
interested
it can
in
be
their
kind of a
romance
mixed bag
at all.
Of like a,
but
it's a kind of a messy relationship.
I like the blue Dragonflight a lot.
What Dragonflight don't we like, Sel? I mean, I think the green Dragonflight at the moment needs improving in regards to characterization, because Mirthra is a bit too similar to Sarah. It is, though, very much a void of who Mirthra is outside of her mother. Maybe it'll be expanded upon, but at the moment I don't know what Mirthra's hopes are. I don't know her dreams, you know, I don't know who her friends are other than her family. We don't see Alex Strasser interact with her. I mean, she's Alex Strasser's niece. Is she hot-headed? Is she more stubborn? Is she more playful?
She's just like
is she a bit
Sarah
of a bastard?
2.0.
We don't really know anything about her. She's a little bit of a non-person at the moment. We'll see if they actually engage with that in any way. I do like the interactions.
Oh yeah, I love that bit. I love their hug.
Like,
that was a really nice moment.
But they do need to work hard in creating their own.
You know what Dragonflight I'm actually really interested in now is the bronze Dragonflight. I never really was interested in them before because I never really had an opportunity to be. The stuff with Nosdormu in those animated shorts that came out before the expansion, and the stuff with that bronze dragon, the one who stole that thing, I can't remember what it was, the MacGuffin in that dungeon.
Ter's floppy disk.
Tears mix CD. Yeah.
His mixtape. He's gonna drop it. It's gonna be fire. 100% we're going to Tears into the laboratory for either a mega dungeon or a raid. It's going to be Build-A-Bear, dragons, of course. This is obvious. It's going to touch on a lot of the uniqueness of each Dragonflight, probably even an aspect, not an aspect, a primal. One of the big proto-Drake people.
I'm especially interested in Nostormu's particular angst with the fact that he knows that at some point he's going to turn into this horrible version of himself in every single timeline, and I thought the interaction between him and Chromie was really sweet.
He defeated us. As if we were nothing.
Not the biggest fan again. Wrathion's just being sassy. I think that's pretty much all we can say about it.
I am sure we can.
And again, not like Wrathion. Be cautious. Yep, Wrathion's a fucking rogue.
You see him clomping around on his Tauren hooves.
My guys.
Key moments.
Ground shaking as Abyssian approaches. Like, oh shit! An absolute wall of a man here.
Okay, so I do like that detail. That's an interesting detail that the Whispers are quieter when they're in their visages than when they're in their dragon forms.
Not too sure what that's going to lead to. That's a little bit of a line that had me scratching my head because I don't really understand. Again, going by the basic fundamentals of writing inside of video games, you gotta say, what does the audience do with this information? Well, we know the visages. They hold off corruption. But what does this mean, though? Is it going to be something that's important in the future? Is this a hint that will help us later? Mickey Mouse winky face? Who knows? It feels like a bit of information that at the moment is a bit redundant because it never is brought up again, and nor is it put into action.
I'm just into the visage lore and filing away little bits of information for use in future fanfic. Like that other little fact that they dropped that Wrathion couldn't escape from the crystal because when you're restrained in your visage, you can't transform into your dragon form. I thought that was really interesting too. Getting back to this bit right here, I do kind of really like Wrathion's little quip at the end, mostly because the voice actor just sells it so well. I loved his little ha that he gives at the end, and it's kind of him being like a little more subtle, and Sibelian gets so mad. It's one of the few times where he just get legit flustered, and it's kind of embarrassing for him. So I do appreciate that little moment between them. It's grown on me. Okay, so now we're on to Abyssian's quest. My brothers are not interested in investigating the Sundered Flame or helping Emberthal.
Emberthal again delivers a burn like, oh, these ones are always, they never seem to have a clear-minded moment other than their agendas. Says Emberthal. Says Emberthal. The irony is not fucking lost on me there. Emberthal's like, I got my revenge. Find
who are interested in Serica, which is what they should clearly be more focused on. And not the giant lab of ancient horrors that is still thriving in this underground cavern.
And just pointing out as well, the implications that avarice is bad and anything that we may find in regards to Neltharion is bad. Eyebrow raise. So he's like, anything in the vault is mine by birthright. You're welcome to it. I want nothing from Neltharion. But the thing is that anything from Neltharion would be making you go,
Yeah, it's really interesting how Abyssian has just no interest in really investigating Neltharion or learning more about him. I wish Wrathion would show more of an interest in that too. I really like the moments where Sibelian is investigating those discs in the cavern we just came from, but that was the kind of stuff that I was hoping Wrathion would do. This expansion, research, investigation, learning stuff about Neltharion, being cautious, maybe learning more about who Neltharion was pre-corruption, stuff like that. It is what it is.
Feels like the writers didn't really, I don't know whether they didn't want to give Wrathion too much plot or they just didn't really know how to keep on going with these plots. They wanted to focus on Abyssian and Sibelian. There's nothing wrong with that. It just creates a sort of, a bit of a misbalance, I think, in upcoming plot. But either way, Emberthal's quest here, quite good. It gives her a bit of plot, it gives her a bit of action, it gives her a quiet character moment coming up.
I also like that Abyssian has stuff to do. I'm not complaining about that at all. I'm glad he has a role in the story. I like him a lot as a character, and I'm happy to see him doing things. Just wish it wasn't at Wrathion's expense. Would be nice, would be better.
I really do truly think it feels like someone's like, we want to do so much with Abyssian. It's like, okay, so you want to sell us on Abyssian? That's okay, that's cool. Okay, so what are Sibelian and Wrathion doing? Well, Sibelian goes along with Wrathion. It's like, okay, so what's Wrathion doing?
Yeah, like I'm interested to see if that is explained in the next cutscene that comes up, because I just...
It's like...
Okay, so just to keep track, we're gonna do a little game called Where's Wrathion? And so where he is currently is he just left saying he was going off in search of avarice. That's where we last saw him or heard that he was doing. So put a pin in that as we go through this.
I've abandoned my boy. I've abandoned
Where
my
is
boy.
he?
You know?
Dragon.
I was running back into the forest trying to find where Wrathion is.
Oh, this guy. I bet he doesn't smell good either. Sir, you are a man on an expedition to an island that does not have plumbing or showers, to my knowledge.
Yeah. Real shit, do dragons have plumbing?
Oh, I think they clearly are into fashion.
Dragons have fashion? I want to know these.
Everyone's massage is very extra. Alex Straz's, Ms. Dormu's, except for Caligos. He's the exception.
Can I just say what Caligos always reminds me of? He's one of those like steampunk guys, and he's like, I want to go around in my slight steampunk outfit all the time. That's so spiked racist. This man, how can we trust a man who doesn't even trust his own pants or shirt still? Also, how did Drakthea reproduce? Are we literally kill? Do we need Neltharian's Drakthea making machine? Are we just killing off an endangered species here?
Honestly.
This is the funniest thing. I've been thinking about it, and I'm like, did these guys actually have any reproductive system, or were they just made as necessary by Neltharion? Lizards hatch out of eggs, so they should have an egg somewhere.
Lizards don't have belly buttons to begin with.
They need to reproduce somehow. They don't have no umbilical cords. They're eggs.
Got the Tauren thing down. You like one and
that sniff he gives to is just very extra. Like, don't sniff Abyssian. Excuse you, that's very rude.
If I was Abyssian, I'd just fucking eat this guy. Like, I wouldn't even
know, right?
Would Emberthor tell on me? Would the Niffin tell on me? I hope they wouldn't be telling. They wouldn't be snitches.
Hey, I'm a Drakthea.
You could just eat him and no one would know.
Well, if you are staying,
you could just eat
Would anyone turn me in? With the Niffin rat on me?
Is anyone going to be a snitch here? I hope not. The Niffin rat on you? Oh,
I didn't even realize I made one.
Shit.
Yes, that was my intention, clearly.
Also, again, it's like the whispers. It must just be Neltharion's echo, right? That's causing this corruption. Come on, get real. It's old gods. Also, I love how different this is. You know, like, man, we need to get back to the quest giver. You hop on my dragon. Best bit about Dragonflight, by the way, dragons. I know I come from Griffin riding in Guild Wars 2. I'm a very, very big fan of
This is definitely a lot of fun. I love dragon riding, especially since I got better at it. I was so bad at it at first. I could barely get from I could barely get from one end of a zone to the other.
So now we have a bit of talk. And this is okay.
I hate this character.
I don't like Runen bit. Again, these quests didn't need more jokes, and then they put Runen in here, and they're like, hey guys, I heard what you're missing in these quests. Jokes. Right? And like, please, I'm suffering. I'm suffering a little bit.
My name is Abyssian, son of Neltharion and the Black Dragonflight.
And also, I love that, by the way. It'd be like turning up to work and being like, this door won't open for me. No one scanned my thumbprint to let me into work. And you place your thumbprint there and it lets you in. How did Emberthor not know that her voice had been...
Why would Neltharion not tell her, like, oh, hey, you can get into my super secret vault where I keep the key to my evil laboratory? I don't know, something.
Vault here.
It's just weird that she doesn't know.
Like I said, it'd be like turning up to work on your first day and they're like, don't worry, you already have your thumbprint. And you're like, really? My thumbprint to get through the doors? Wow. Bit nerve-wracking. Also, Oathbinder, which controls the
that's Neltharion's glove, right?
Drakthea.
The power glove.
I love the power glove. It's so the power glove. So bad. Thank you, NSW.
I'm actually
that's
exactly what I was thinking of. Like, Neltharion is like, hey, come over and
the power glove
play my NES with my cool power glove. And the other, and like, Malagos is like, no. This is below my dignity.
No, we're not going to go around to your house and play with the power glove.
That was Neltharion's first descent into madness.
You guys don't want to come around and play with the power glove? I can't believe you did this to me. Can't believe you've done this.
No! Oathbinder is mine!
Is this why you came here? To enslave us again with Neltharion's devices? That's how you would create unity?
All finished?
Yeah, it just finished. I love how Emberthal just stomped on that glove and destroyed it.
Cheap ass plastic glove. I will say this. Again, not a very engaging cutscene. Like I said, again, it never explains it. So, okay, so these people here in the Whispers. Okay, these people aren't. So again, Emberthal and Abyssian are like, wow, we never hear the Whispers.
Wrathion and Sibelian are. And Abyssian does say he is kind of here, or he doesn't say he's hearing them. He just says, "Oh, the Whispers." Maybe it's because Wrathion's potion is working so well.
Yeah. And oh my god, so these Abyssian and Emberthal here design.
How do they have goals and aspirations? How dare they?
Not a big fan of it. Also, the fucking contrivance of computer power.
Beam me up, Scotty.
You know, the transporter must transporter us. It's fine. It changes the scene, but it's not right. It's
You have been abandoned.
Anyway, again, not enjoying the unevenness, I guess is the best word, in regards to the effects of the Whispers on each character. It's a bit fucking wonky. Yeah, so anyway, me raising an eyebrow like this.
I do like how Abyssian is being a cheerleader
but anyway,
for
nice
her.
conclusion to Emberthal's sort of like part here. I do like I said, I like Abyssian and Emberthal's interactions here. Do wish it wasn't at the expense of others, but otherwise from that, back to Loamm.
Okay, so what's
go.
coming up is the cutscene I've been kind of dreading, which is the one where Abyssian chews out Sibelian and Wrathion. Judging by the context clues of what kind of happened like immediately after that cutscene was supposed to play, leads me to believe that Wrathion is going to react particularly poorly to this. Before we do that, I also want to say I really love Sibelian's line right here.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention at the time, but this came up in that cutscene before Farak blasted them, how he offers Wrathion a position to join his troops and how it's the best outcome for him once I become an aspect. It's such good angst. I love it so much, especially because he's like saying that to us when we're right here and Wrathion is like a foot away from him. Just the thought of Wrathion, because Wrathion is going to be kind of adrift after all this is over. Being aspect was his life's aspiration. So that's going to happen. And then it's also just very depressing thinking about him giving up his lifestyle, maybe changing his visage to match his army better, submitting to Sibelian as part of his army. It's deliciously depressing to me and I love it. I need to write this AU as a fanfic or something. This is the angst I want.
Way to play with my emotions. Sorry, way to play with my emotions.
No, I was just gonna say, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting
also, that
you.
I will point out that all I was gonna say is it's odd how Sibelian has an interact line and Wrathion doesn't. And actually, that's one thing that I've noticed. Wrathion often doesn't have any interact lines. He doesn't have any like just general text, like general box text. No barks, no general box text. It's just a little bit bare compared to the other two characters too. I will just note that. But anyway, I agree though with that awful sort of outcome for Wrathion, like just giving up his life as an inquiring soul and explorer just to be a soldier. He's been recruited, so he's been.
Also, latest update, where's Wrathion? He's suddenly back here in Loamm for some reason, even though he's supposed to be off looking for Avarice. I'm watching this cutscene. Okay, here we go.
Ah, my good friends. What treasures have you brought me?
Ignore him. He has no claim to my father's possessions.
Wrathion's taller now.
Truly the matter at hand. Who is the rightful heir to a legacy of deceit, control, and fear?
So you did find something.
We did. And I destroyed it.
You had no right.
I had every right. So long as that device existed, my people would never be free.
What has she done?
While you two bicker like petulant whelps, she did what was right for her people. Let go of the past. Your flight needs you here and now.
All right, so that wasn't as bad as I was anticipating. I really was expecting Wrathion to storm off or something like that. But oh my god, why is Wrathion acting like this now?
Yeah.
Oh, what treasures have you brought me? Like, what?
Can I just say something too? Like that whole cutscene, Emberthal's like, this controls my people, and it was bad, and it was horrible. And Wrathion's like, oh my god, you let her destroy it?
They've tried to control him. That was what the Red Dragonflight tried to do for him.
To Wrathion his whole life?
Due to him, his independence is a very key part of his character. Why would he ever want a mind control device?
Again,
his entire shtick is about not succumbing to mind control and the old gods. And
the control of others, just in general. Can I just say how to just quickly, in one quick simple step, how to rewrite that same? Okay, so Emberthal and Abyssian come in and they're like, yeah, we found something. And they're like, what? You destroyed it? And Emberthal says, I'm not letting a legacy of control that thing would have done. And just talking about control in general and like evil things that Neltharion's done. Why not just change Wrathion and Sibelian's faces from to dumb? Make them just a little bit shocked, like, oh shit, it was what? Just give them in the implication that Emberthal is really upset and like, it was horrible what they found. And then Wrathion and Sibelian go, oh, damn, really? That's it. But instead, it was like another chance for Abyssian to go, see, you guys are just lamos and you're fighting all the time. And like, you're not doing it for your people, blah, blah, blah.
Interested in keeping a mind control device to control the Drakthir. I don't get the sense that he...
Can I just say this real fast? The absolute gall of Abyssian saying to Sibelian and Wrathion, think of your people.
Done so much.
Sibelian, who has cared for his flight and outline and kept him alive for years. And Wrathion, who fucking, when he thought he was the single black dragon alive still, he put his life on the line in BFA.
I know.
That is rich. Like, that is like Abyssian, like, you guys never think about your people. Oh, yeah,
right,
Mr. Hides on a mountain for 10,000 years. All right, fucker. And then,
he felt so bad. Okay.
I felt really bad about. Can I just say, I'm just going to spoil you. People were saying, Abyssian was only yelling at
oh my god, this is what I hate about that. You had that swell of music playing while he was talking. So that is clearly what that scene was intended to be. This is another reason why Abyssian should be Aspect and Sibelian and Wrathion should not. That is what that was. That was not Abyssian succumbing to the whispers and letting his temper out.
I will say this, and I'm just going to say this real fast to yourself. It's okay if the writers wanted Abyssian to be Aspect. It's okay.
Yeah, I love Abyssian. Him being Aspect means he'll be in the story more, which I like. I don't want him to disappear and never come up again. So I'm down with him being Aspect.
And again, this is the pacing. They can't come up with a reason why these characters would be acting like this, so they have to throw it in a pacing triage of the whispers. So they're like, we need these characters to change their personalities real quick and be really embarrassing so we can write a quick story about learning, about looking towards one's future. How do we do that? Whispers. It's a writing triage and it weakens the narrative. If you would have had these characters all on equal ground arguing, you create a complex narrative. As simple as that. And the thing is that that is POing me, just teasing me surrounded by Niffin here, that someone didn't see this happening. It was agreed on. And the thing is, it would have created such a rich, interesting narrative to have all these brothers stand on the same ground together, each with their strong points, each with their weaknesses. But learning that despite those hiccups that they have, it's perfect what's coming up with Sibelian and Abyssian. That should have been first, not all this stuff with Emberthal first. Again, the pacing, this part shouldn't have been here. It should have been done differently in regards to actually keeping that narrative storytelling, because you're giving your audience information here and then you're wanting a reaction. It just doesn't deliver well. And like I said, it's very egregious how Abyssian can come in and lecture Sibelian and Wrathion. Sibelian, who's cared for all those fucking dragons and
he's done a great job. They're all healthy. They have lots of eggs and babies. Yeah, I'd be grumpy too.
He's a right grump.
Honestly, if I had to survive on the Blade's Edge Mountains.
Exactly. He's a bit cold and he's a bit martial law. He's a bit over-disciplined. That's okay. We can have those parts in his character. Sibelian isn't a bad person.
He's very utilitarian.
No, he knows what he needs to do to keep the people around him alive and safe. And Wrathion, on the flip side, he's really given everything in a kind of almost terrifying way.
He just got neck deep into it with facing the old gods and learning how to defeat their whispers and putting himself on the line by going into Nyalotha. That takes a lot of bravery, confronting this thing that caused so much damage to his flight, and knowing that the old gods are like, he has a target on his back, like they are looking at him and wanting to destroy him.
And specifically in Wrathion's journals, remember he said, I will never
Yeah, it's not just him, like his personal safety. He is doing everything.
I will do
he's doing so that he can help other dragons like he did with Abyssian. It's not just about him.
These characters are becoming passive characters, both Sibelian and Wrathion in these quests. Sibelian less so in the next couple of quests, but Wrathion more so. They're reacting to the plot from their previous experiences and the previous characterization. They're not forging the plot to move ahead. They're just simply reacting to how the plot needs them to react. The pacing of this is not done particularly well, and it's not done with the respect to the characters. None of these points are bad by themselves. If they wanted to push this plot, it's okay. I'm not against 20.
Yeah, I think that would be a very fun dynamic for Wrathion and Sibelian, and sometimes brothers just hate each other, and that's okay.
We don't mind any of that, but when it comes at a cost that the characters become either passive or they're regressed or another character is uplifted to tell off other characters whose characterization is being regressed. Out of the three of them, I actually think Sibelian has done the fucking most for the Black Dragonflight specifically. He's gone out of his way.
Oh yeah, that was just that one guy who was honestly kind of a loser, so his opinion doesn't count. What are you doing drinking out here?
Don't speak to your father like that.
We have Jarden to kill, man. Get back here.
For the time that Sibelian's been in the Outland, most of those dragons in Sibelian's family have only got the same amount of experience as Wrathion too, and they're all treated like proficient soldiers. I don't know. Anyway, Sibelian is gone above and beyond, and it's very rich. Abyssian lecturing him like that. Anyway, I've said my piece.
Getting back to our game of Where's Wrathion, so he's disappeared again. We don't know where he is, or if he's made progress on finding Aberys. He's just gone.
It's maybe a controversial opinion, but I actually don't think Wrathion should have been in these story quests. I know that's bad. I think he should have I've been doing some research
at that point
on Aberys.
When he said, "Oh, I'm going off to find Aberys," if he just disappeared and didn't come back until like later when they go to Aberys, Sibelian and Abyssian do their thing here, go back to report to Alexstrasza, and then they get a message from a Black Talon agent, and Wrathion's like, "Hey, I found Aberys. It's kind of hard to miss, actually. Just go down in the cavern and head south. You should see it." I think that would have been preferable to well, we'll get there. We'll get there.
We've got through, I'd say, probably a lot of the worst of it. I think the parts that are coming next week, no clue about the end parts of the story, but the next chapter with the Slither Drake, a lot less egregious.
Oh yeah, and he also has a really good line, which I guess we'll get to when we talk about that later. Oh, hold on. There's something I want to say about
the Dragon Uber here.
Abyssian, I think a smaller force of just you and the champion is prudent.
Your thoughts?
No need to involve any others.
Okay. No. I was just pausing so I could like listen to it. These lines where Sibelian is like, "Abyssian, I think a smaller force of just you and the champion is prudent. No need to involve any others." And Abyssian goes, "I suppose it is for the best." That is such a slight against Wrathion. They're purposefully excluding him from this excursion. Like, whoa, okay, all right, you two.
There, and the characters don't want him there.
No need to involve any of the others. I think pointed look at Wrathion, who's walking away to do his non-plot.
Again, just sitting in line, playing fucking, like, just twiddling his thumbs, playing cards.
Yeah.
So everyone loves Wrathion for
okay, now we're on to the best part of this quest line, which is Abyssian and Sibelian's little adventure to take down Frock the Burninator. Oh, I love them. I love them so much. The voice acting is great.
It's actually really well paced. The experience of these quests is actually really good. A mix of like kicking people's asses to just engaging with stuff.
Just absolutely killing it. Everything is gorgeous in the zone. Like, look at that purple in the sky and those tendrils of fire spiraling up to meet it.
I know. One thing that I will never fucking criticize is the art direction.
Look at that vista. Oh, I see a rune.
I love how we're like immediately distracted. We love runes.
Oh, it was Shadowflame specifically that corrupted Neltharion?
Well, no.
Okay.
It was just simply the whispers over time that corrupted Neltharion. Shadowflame has been in game before. Like I said, it's used to resurrect Onyxia. I think even if you go to the adventure journal, it'll actually note that in Blackwing Descent. Okay, so it doesn't say it in the adventure book, but I know for sure that there is an actual bark line that says, "Shadowflame to resurrect my sister, my greatest invention." It's the purple flame that takes over Onyxia's corpse for that. Wrathion actually went in there and took the Nixia's soul,
Yeah,
so he would have been, he would have seen
would still
Shadowflame
be
in a
lingering
sense,
there.
the remains of Shadowflame. Being
The
really
knowledge
used
he's
to any of this.
obtained up to this point never comes in handy. I can't think of one instance where he's utilized any of his research.
Shadowflame isn't a new concept, but I don't think Shadowflame particularly corrupted Neltharion, unless I'm getting the lore wrong. It should have always just been the whispers. The thing is the time that Neltharion spent underground, which Wrathion knows too, by the way, and again, it's like, we are going underground, Wrathion, where Neltharion's legacy might be. You better not prepare for any of this, and this
Plans are
Wrathion
for
and Dragonflight is like,
losers.
bro, plans are for nerds.
Got nothing but jokes
it's
for
more
him.
comedy, right? He's more of a comedy character. Having him as a laugh, joke time, and also this bit, like
Yeah,
how
I think this is supposed to be a
I can't believe you
moment
killed this
to
courthound.
show how aggressive Civilian is, but it doesn't really. The players of Warcraft have killed so many core hounds. I don't know why we're suddenly concerned about this specific one. How could you do this, Civilian? Clearly, you should not be asked back. You're too aggressive. This is going too far.
The dragons vegetarians. These two dragons would have eaten things bigger than this. Like, I'm not too sure why all of a sudden Abyssians, like, we're vegan, actually. And it was attacking me. I came in this cave, it started attacking me, and I don't want a core hanging off my little dragon folds in front of the Jaredin over there. I don't want
dignity,
a
please,
dog
consider his
dangling
dignity.
off my tail. I'm trying to fight Jaredin. Give me a break. Also, I do love, I'm going to bring this up for anyone listening, the Drakthir, right? How they're always like, the Drakthir, the ultimate warriors. The Drakthir are like that picture of the cat with the lizard dangling off of its nose. The Drakthir are the lizard and dragons are the cat. How did they get all these little tiny ant creatures compared to the size of dragons to be the ultimate warriors? Dragons could come around and just slap them. They could stand on them and squish these Drakthir. Drakthir are tiny. They're so small. They're like tiny little lizards compared to the power of that cat with the lizard dangling off of its nose. Imagine this moment. Abyssian with Emberthor dangling off of his nose, like just biting onto the very little tiny bit of cartilage, dangling, like shaking a head back and forth like an angry crocodile. That is just the vision that I can. That is all I can envision when they're like the ultimate warriors. And it's just like this tiny little lizard dangling off these fucking dragons' noses. It's like, we'll get you. We'll all bite your ankles at once and make you bleed out.
You have killed Civilian without his beard. The Evan Lieutenant.
He had peeled Civilian. Got naked. Zooming on
the Civilian we have at home.
Got dollar store Civilian and dollar store Abyssian. You know why Neltharion made the Drakthir? He probably picked up like two up in his hands and was like, now both you kiss.
He's just like, oh, they're so cute.
Oh my god, they're so cute. He's just been playing
the real horror that's waiting us in Avarice's Neltharion's Barbie house that's awaiting us.
It's literally just an oversized Polly Pocket that Neltharion kept on using to make his Drakthir kiss. He's like, now you guys kiss.
Writing
And they're like, sir, we don't like each other. No! We must both kiss. The Drakthir are like, so the boss made me like, you know, become a doctor today. And then I had to kiss his all around like Bob from, you know, We're 237. It's so embarrassing.
Shadow Flame. I smell the blood of
when I consume Shadowflame.
Oh, I love the Primalist little T-Rex arms. They're so cute. No, Civilian!
Civilian is wounded.
Civilian's fucking dead.
We must flee.
He's smoking.
I think he's more than wounded. I'd say he's probably dead after that shit. It's just like a small pile of like
Civilian's injured.
Civilian,
he's a pile of
eyebrows. Sibelian, talk to me. Abyssian turns Sibelian over and Sibelian just does not have his beard anymore.
Of his visage. He's injured. He has no eyebrows. Very, very undignified.
No eyebrows. No mustache. Very embarrassing. Sibelian, speak to me. Sibelian's like, what's about my mustache? Please, champion, tell me it's okay.
Hair loss. This is how my father went mad. This has got to be like a highlight of the entire patch for me. This little bit right here where Civilian is. Oh, he disappeared for me. He's gone. Where did he go? Oh, there he is. Okay.
Finger snap. Also really funny how Civilian's like,
he's on fire.
No worry at the moment.
And the fire is whispering things to feed to him.
I was like,
He caught my arm with Shadowflame.
Oh my god, this has gotta be one of the best lines in the patch though, where he's like screaming about his arm being on fire and speaking to him.
I saw, I know.
And the V's delivery is just so good. I love it so much. It's such a great little bit of horror.
He's of no concern right now. Virok is the only thing you should.
You are my brother. I will
yeah, like
not
mixed
trade
in with
your
everything.
life for
Yes,
Virok's,
though
nor for
it's just really
anything.
good. Like I said, it's the build of like kind of scary.
No,
It's like, is civilian
it's
gonna be okay?
horrifying, yeah.
So that I may
Is
help
he,
you in our
you know, are we
time
going to be
of
able to cleanse with this? And again, and just a little side wink, because we did talk about this, it would have been good to have Wrathion at least in this quest, you know, with like the
It would have been one way for him to put his skills
who's
to use. I don't mind that
Hmm.
Abyssian is the one who takes care of it, but it's just another example of something Wrathion could have done to be useful and to use his knowledge. I love the line that Abyssian gave her. He's like, "Oh, you're my brother. I would not trade your life for anything." Again, this is something I wanted to see more of Wrathion and Abyssian doing, is having these brotherly moments where they're, you know, getting into danger and helping each other. But I really do love this bit between Abyssian and Civilian. I'm glad it's here.
It really, really bolsters the characters. Like, despite everything that we've seen before, this is a good character bolstering moment, and it has fight bits and it has cool bits, and actually the pacing on this really good.
It especially
Civilian
develops
immediately.
Civilian's
Right,
character.
yes, right.
This whole like bit that we're doing is just like a very humanizing sign for him.
I care about Civilian. Like, that's the thing. I like all the Black Dragon. I like the Black Dragonflights. Full stop. Okay, so we're putting together the ritual, which is new. I said we don't know.
He
Again,
taught me
it
how
would
to
have
do
been
this. That would have
interesting
been
if
really
would have
cool.
maybe mentioned Wrathion, like Wrathion taught me this, or that's how I know how to do this and how to.
Yeah,
actually
it would
get
just
this
be like
engaged,
another
don't
little
worry.
thing.
Yeah, at least references.
Place the
Like,
cords
and
around the
even
token.
both of these, like Abyssian and Civilian, be like, man, are we treating Wrathion rather harshly when everything
Yeah, then maybe
here we've
Civilian would
learned
have a
from
chance
him?
to be impressed by that. Like, oh,
You know,
I
like
didn't
curing
realize
corruption,
Wrathion was so
doing-
knowledgeable.
a nightmare. This is what
Yeah,
turned my father into a monster.
Yeah, at least talking about him, but it feels like again, I don't feel like the writers either wanted him there, which is, like I said, it's okay. If you don't want to write a character, that's fine. If you're having difficulty writing a character, that's fine too. But this just feels like an obvious attempt to be like, yeah, we don't really care about it.
This little set of lines that they
Not
have
a
is
great
really
one,
good too,
you know.
where he's like,
Right.
Civilian is like, this is what turned my father into a monster, and Abyssian's comforting him.
Yeah.
Pain is
And like that, I would not let that happen to my brother. It's really upsetting too, being a Wrathion fan.
Yeah, that was, you know, that was,
we've lost that for Wrathion, and now it's Abyssian's line.
yeah.
And it will become Civilian's
and
line
it's
too
not
when
like
he helps
I'm,
out.
hold on, I need
Abyssian
to,
too, so wanna
finish
hop
this.
on?
I need to throw the orb.
You, so I'm going to throw my orb. Me. Are you chucking your balls about? You're playing with your balls.
Cease. Yeah, this is so good because you learn more about
Okay,
what
zooming in here.
Civilian fears.
Now,
you know,
actually-
winding up like Neltharion.
Yeah, a very personalised touch with that.
Yeah,
too,
him
because we
panicking
directly
is,
see
like,
panicking,
such a
like,
good
being fearful.
way of conveying that, because he's been pretty cool. Like, apart from when he's been screaming at Wrathion, he's not easily rattled,
also
so
a visage of controlling the
it's
guards.
particularly
It's good to
scary to see him like that.
And even though you can tell that Abyssian is scared too, like he's like, no, don't worry. It's handled well. It doesn't take away from these two characters. It creates tension between them. Anyway, I'm glad that both Abyssian
Yeah, they
and
both really
Civilian have
shine
their
in
day
these
the
quests.
light
It's
here,
really
especially
awesome to
lots of
see.
stuff. So, like I said, I just wish it didn't come at the expense of Wrathion. I'd say on an overall rating of this patch, story-wise, I'd say we're hitting, for me personally, it's probably like about 3 out of 10. It's not great. I'm not enjoying the experience in the sense of like what it's done for the characters. I hate giving things a numerical score here because it so undermines it. It's like those points solely fall to these quests, which is like, ooh.
I don't know if I would rate this patch that low as like a 3, because I do enjoy a lot of it. I really like this bit here. It's great seeing the 3 of them together, even though I don't always like how those interactions are. I'm happy to hear their VAs. They do an amazing job. It's cool seeing more Black Dragon architecture. It's just Wrathion stuff is definitely the least enjoyable. With a few, like a handful of moments for him, just he brings the whole thing down.
Me, so a 5 there? Worst game ever, 10 out of 10. An IGN score.
No.
Nice. Oh no.
Your aggro is too strong.
Oh. The snails too. Oh no. Oh no, it's Abyssian. Abyssian, you piece of shit. Oh, you shithead. Oh, you're a bloody hunter. You're not a bloody shaman.
Oh my god, yeah, what is your Abyssian doing? He's gone rogue.
Stop attacking the orb, Abyssian. He's gone rogue. He's like, I'm gonna kill everything here. Anyway, so yeah, okay, so not as harsh then. I would give it a 5. 5 out of 10. 5 points.
No, I get it. You're allowed to have your rating.
That's right.
I even like this little exchange between Sibelian and Abyssian because, you know, they clearly have their own points of view, but you understand why Sibelian is the way he is. His thought process for how he feels he can best defend his Dragonflight. Outland was really rough. I just like that moment too.
Abyssian doesn't really take much responsibility for not being engaged in anything, and he loves like passing judgment on people. But it's good. This is good because it lets Sibelian explain himself, which is important. Like, okay, Abyssian is picking on Sibelian, be like, is this just vengeance? And Sibelian's like, fucking try surviving in Outland. Abyssian, I did what was right for the people around me. I didn't like that. I've killed Bronn, I had to look after my Dragonflight. It's raw.
I'm not a fan of how judgmental Abyssian is in this because I know it's just all in service of making him seem like the better choice for Aspect.
Also, question, I'm just reading this text from Sibelian looking at Farak here. I have a perfect shot at the underside of Farak's neck from this angle.
Listen, Sibelian is just very talented. He's very good with spears.
That is his ass.
He's gonna put an arc in that thing and it's gonna fly around. He knows what he's doing. He's got a boomerang.
He's got a boomerang. He attaches it to a boomerang. He's gonna do a proper arc here to hit Farak in the neck. Anyway, that is Farak booty ass. We're looking at Farak's little tail here. His little wingies and his little tail. We're gonna just hit him straight in the butthole here. And I hope that you're ready for those consequences. Sibelian's like, ahoy! It's just immediately stuck in Farak's ass.
It's like rude. Rude, man.
My dude.
Also, can I just say how much I love this
I wasn't gonna kill you
dialogue
before,
that Sibelian has before you tell him you're ready? What if your plan fails? No, I am certain of it. That was probably not intended to be funny, but I really enjoyed that.
This is gonna fail.
I love Sibelian so much. Oh, Farak's Dragonflight is so cool. I love those horns.
My job here.
You know, his little bitty arms.
Oh, the horns are amazing, but his little tiny arms are so funny.
Iridikron, do not let that child of Neltharion escape.
Yeah.
And Iridikron's like, bro, I just woke up. What the fuck? Teenager who just woke up. Iridikron. She's like, what? What are you talking about, man? And she's just still wiping sleep from her eyes. She's like,
no, I'm missing. No.
And then
it's your no. Also, it's the Sibelian just rotating on the spot. He's just.
I really like that.
Tilted.
Oh man.
No.
Yeah. Oh, what's this?
Actually, that was a good delivery. Oh. Now we get some.
Oh my god, Frog looks so cool.
What should we spend our pre-rendered cutscene money on?
The way they did the Shadow Flame.
Oh, you look great. But incredibly funny. They're like, what should we spend our pre-rendered money on?
Hey, the Niffin deserve their day in the sun.
Let's go. Okay, poor old Abyssian. He's a shish kebab. Now, I love this quest. These next couple of quests.
I do too.
Love them. Unironically, love them.
It's just a very vulnerable
we're having
moment.
characters talk together, we're engaging with characters. So good. More of it. And it's good mechanics too, by the way. Like,
it makes the worst noise too as you're pulling at it. Like, you can really feel the viscera there.
Sorry. Save your strength.
It is my turn to...
This line from Sibelian, hush, save your strength, it is my turn to tend to your wounds. It's so good.
And like this, we learned something about dragons too, which is really cool. Dragons do have a type of scale that if you get a barbed spear behind it, it's very difficult to remove.
World building details that I can file away for later.
I like Sibelian calling Abyssian his brother. Now that was a line that Wrathion used in BFA, which is the sad part of this. And everyone forgets that now.
Wrathion referred to Abyssian as his brother at any point?
Like, wow. Chamber of Heart.
Well, no. Like in this expansion.
But yes, Wrathion doesn't refer to either of them as his brothers. The relationship between Abyssian and Wrathion in this expansion has not been written well. Love this change of tone here. Scary moment. We need to panic. Ferak's going to Loamm.
The stakes are definitely pretty high because they're both injured, and I think there's a line. Oh yeah, Sibelian and I cannot take to the air in this state.
Love this. Love the transition. Like, you need to take to air, get air before us, see what you can do.
Oh yeah,
Let's go.
This is amazing.
These are good quests. I like this. It's not killing stuff, it is moving us from one quest to the other. Good mechanics, good use of mechanics intertwining with quest dynamics and then engaging in with that. And it's fun. This is fun for the player. The player wants to ride the dragon. Fuck yeah. Good job. Good job, whoever thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if they could ride the dragon back to Loamm and fly through the Shadowfine? I like that. Those are good quests.
He gets to use his shaman powers, which I like, and also I really like his recovered strength bar. I love when they add mechanics like that, where it's just like you really feel how weak and vulnerable, well, I guess not the champion, but Abyssian is right now.
And also it shows off the Black Dragonflight using earth powers again, which was nice with Sibelian using an earth shield before in that cutscene. I don't think Wrathion's ever used earth powers, by the way. That's something.
No.
Never. Wrathion usually uses fire. So it's nice seeing both Sibelian and Abyssian at least using those earth powers, as one would think. And I like this. This is very intense with helping out the Niffin, and the Niffin, some have died, some are like confused and stuff. Good, I don't mind this. This is good.
Oh yeah, I love that they're Trogvar around too. They were one of my favorite creatures from Legion. I liked Brennsauce. This is very sad. He has such a great hat too.
He certainly was a guy.
I'm gonna miss him in his hat. Have you talked to Abyssian yet and triggered the next thing? Okay, I am doing the same.
I am talking to Abyssian now.
This was not your fault, Sibelian. Ferak would have caused this suffering regardless of our actions.
And Honeypot has a good line too. She's like, sorry for your loss here. And she's like, don't be sorry, be angry.
I really like what Sibelian says here.
We've certainly been angry in this video.
What happened here? What have you all done? I leave you alone for a moment and...
Wrathion, not now. Let everyone recover. Let us mourn those.
Oh, Wrathion. You deserve
Okay, do you want to
so
say anything
better.
before I go off on a rant about this?
Wrathion shouldn't have been here. He should not have come back in this section. If you wanted Wrathion to come back into it, he should have been meeting them at the top of the thing and being like, and what happened? Oh no, Dragon Jesus Christ. That was horrible. I can't believe that happened and Ferak did that to the village. Not, go on guys, don't blame me for what happened. Oh. I'm doing my Mickey Mouse voice here. It's a dismissal of his character. We know how Wrathion reacts to death, as we've seen. And this isn't the Whispers, by the way. Anyone who's like, oh, it's the Whispers. Shut up about the Whispers. Shut up about the fucking Whispers. This isn't the Whispers. This is Wrathion not being written well, unfortunately. This is, again, using Wrathion as the comedy character, the levity character.
That is definitely
USA.
one of my least favorite lines from him in this patch. His reaction is just so callous there. There's, you know, this city with these people that he got to know is smoking, was on fire. There's his brothers who are still horribly injured, who've just returned from this ordeal, and there's a dead body like a foot in front of him, and that was his reaction, was, what have you done? I leave you alone for 2 minutes. Granted, the VA's delivery of that line was much softer than I was picturing when I just saw the dialogue on its own, but that's completely negated by Abyssian's reaction, which is to scold him like a child and tell him how inappropriate that is. So it's just him acting needlessly callous, him making a joke or a quip or being sarcastic, or it's completely uncalled for. And it's especially jarring because it comes after this really great portion where you have Sibelian and Abyssian working together, helping each other out, bonding as brothers. And then Wrathion just comes they have him just come crashing back in, and I don't like it.
The tone, the experience, the pacing. Again, the pacing would have been much better if Wrathion hadn't arrived in this bit, because it allows you to sink in and see what just happened. Holy shit, that was horrible. And immediately it's ruined by Wrathion going, oh, left you guys alone for 2.
I know that this is all just another reason for why he shouldn't be aspect, but it's just so...
I don't think Wrathion should have been in that scene. They should have removed that part. They should have just had Wrathion meet them back in Valdrakken, and Wrathion should have been like, what? What happened? I never went back to Loamm. I just came straight back here and told my Black Talons.
Yeah, fill him in on what happened. It just really doesn't flatter him at all, and it's just another example of what should be a serious moment. Him just not getting with it, just being very insensitive. Insensitive to his brothers.
It's just literally to just be like, hey guys, isn't Wrathion funny? And everyone's like, no, he's annoying.
Yeah, he's funny and annoying. Those two things that I think of when I think of his character.
What a conclusion to that section of the scenario quest, from going from really good quest to whatever that ending was.
Oh, we're not even done yet. There's one more line coming up that I just...
I feel like they told the writer, like, make Wrathion be like, make him so he doesn't really understand the consequences of what this... Wrathion understands the consequences. We've seen this in BFA, made clear in the text before. In the actual context of the story, about how Wrathion responds to very serious situations, he wouldn't be like, oh my god, guys, what are you doing, you silly billies? Lol. It's a real tone booker-upper, basically. And
yeah, if he just stayed,
it should never been left in.
Like I don't think they ever explicitly say that he was the one who found Avarice. I'm not even sure if that's what happened, because in the next bit of quests that we have that will lead up to the raid, Abyssian has a comment about how he found these soldiers down there or something like that. So
pin this on me. I wasn't even involved in that incident in the Caldera.
I know, and then Abyssian explaining to him like he's a 2-year-old. We have to inform Alexstrasza of what happened down there. You know, like Wrathion needs to be told that. This particular line, I don't know why it took me this long, but when I first saw that, this was the moment when it really sank in that, oh, Wrathion's not becoming Aspect. This is over. He's done. Not only won't he be Aspect, but he can't be Aspect at this point, the way he's been written, the point of no return for him. It's such a cowardly thing to have him say here in this moment. He was down there. Granted, they purposefully left him out of that excursion, but you'd think he would feel some responsibility for what happened. Like, he wasn't there for his brothers when they were in pain or hurt. He was not there to help put out the fires in Loamm. You can spin it one way and be like, okay, Wrathion's really worried about his reputation because he's done a lot of bad things in the past, so he might be really worried about having more stuff pinned on him, especially in front of Alexstrasza and the other aspects who he's aspiring to join. But again, that's me trying to rationalize it. It's not really made explicit.
Trying to reckon the implications that the average player can take of that are not very friendly towards the character. For a character that has been shown to grow and learn. Yeah,
this is not how Wrathion of Visions of N'Zoth would act at all. I really don't think so. It's a regression. It's a step back. What happened to him? What is he going through that's making him act this way? If they are aware that this is out of character for him, what is the end goal? It's just the Whispers.
Oh my god, sure.
Up here at the highest point in the Dragon Isles, it's still the Whispers. Causing him to act out of character. It is not the Whispers.
Not the Whispers. Anyone listening to this, it is not the Whispers, my guys. It's a excuse to push the plot along and to push the characters along, again, because they're acting passive rather than proactive on their lived experiences. And I'm not making up these experiences. These writers wrote these experiences for these characters. But then they forget them to create a passive character. Make your characters proactive. You know that Wrathion would not be acting like this. You're just doing this so the plot progresses. You're overriding a character to push the plot. And Wrathion is huge. Wrathion's grown.
Oh yeah, here he is with the spite.
Makes him increase in size by a good foot over Sibelian. Oh, I'm so full of whispers and corruption right now. I know what the writer's intention was for this, but it's not good. It's not been delivered well. The only chapter that shone in that was number 3. And the bit with Emberthorpe, didn't mind that. But anything with Wrathion really honestly was a weak point of that story. They're writing the story and altering the characters as to fill those roles as they need for the plot. Now we're leading back into all those interviews, the legacy of the Black Dragonflight, Well, the legacy seems here to forget all of the past characterization of these dragons, what they've actually succeeded at the past, how their personalities have been in the past, ignoring Sibelian's work in the Outlands and protecting his flight, forgetting Wrathion's ironically good recklessness. He was willing to almost sacrifice himself to maintain the sovereignty of Azeroth against old gods. And he was very mature, and he was calm and patient in all of that, and a very likable character. And Abyssian, well, Abyssion's legacy seems to be to tell off his two brothers, who are currently active because of the Whispers, of course, so. And his legacy is just to lord it over his two brothers, a guy who sat on a mountain for 10,000 years. And I like Abyssian. To improve that storyline just then, Wrathion needed his own side story, where you could spend a quiet moment with him, or at least talk with him. You know, his own fears like that. He heard the Whispers and he's not even worried about corruption. He wasn't like, I can't be down here. We need to at least prepare ourselves. He isn't warning Abyssian or Sibelian. Again, it goes against Wrathion's character. What we've seen with Wrathion's character is he is good at avoiding corruption. He is almost paranoid. If he's killing other dragons, like because he knows that they're corrupted, that is almost a level of paranoia there. He didn't even let us handle the tomes that he thought could be vaguely corrupted in Visions of Madness. You know, the pages, right? When he was reassembling all the books, he was like, let me handle these. This is absolute bullshit corruption. So I'm all juiced up on my anti-corruption potion. Let me handle this. He was very cautious, and he knew he had the backup of Magni and Mother and all the other dragons that are in there too. This is just weird.
He's a planner. He has 20 different threads,
of his character,
20 different balls up in the air. He's a schemer. He schemes. A key part of his character. He was scheming from the egg. That's like literally the first thing he does from within the eggshell is conspire to get the Ravenholt rogues to rescue him. He comes out and he's already ordering them around. Like, he's ready to.
Oh my god, they've just handed in the idiot ball and they're like,
well, they don't want him to be aspect, so that's why all of this is happening.
Oh, it has weaknesses that could easily discount him from being the aspect, though. Like, that could be handled in a rational way. Like, he doesn't know about other dragons.
He's young and inexperienced. Abyssian and Sibelian are way older than him. Sibelian he's already proven he can be a leader. He is the leader of a whole bunch of dragons, and he's gotten them through some really difficult times. Abyssian was advisor to the people in High Mountain. He doesn't have experience as a leader, but he's definitely like a good...
It's a mediator. And that's a very powerful upon itself. Those are all really good talents. And Wrathion had some good talents to be aspect too, but he could easily touch on the weaknesses that don't undermine his character.
Right. He's an outsider.
He doesn't know dragons. He's a dragon. You could tell a story in Finding Home, but there's sometimes when you come to see your culture again.
That is the angst that I desperately want. Like, I would have loved this story if they had dealt with the fact that his entire life, that is the one thing that's anchored him, is he is a black dragon. He's the last black dragon, as far as he knows. And he has had this mission. I am going to be aspect. I'm the only one. I have to do this. It's my responsibility. And then he finally reaches the Dragon Isles. He's so close to obtaining that position. And all of a sudden, Sibelian shows up with all these other black dragons and is a contender for aspect. And not only is he a contender, but he's older, more experienced, wiser. He has a lot of loyalty and support from these other dragons. And now, not only might Wrathion not become aspect and achieve this thing he's been working towards for his entire life, but he's suddenly an outsider in his own Dragonflight. That's got to be crushing for him. It's angst that's being left on the table.
That can interlink with him not being aspect so well.
He's very independent. You know, he has Black Talon, but I've always seen it as a found family kind of thing. I do not like what they did with Black Talon, where it seems like Wrathion just doesn't care about them or their lives, especially in the Obsidian Citadel bit. Like, they're just soldiers. They're like toys for him. They're like pets. Yeah, very different from BFA.
Yeah, outside of Blackrock Depths, and he was like, you know.
Oh, it was so good. I think that was the exact moment when I really started to like his character, because I was introduced to him in BFA. I did not play during MOP or any of that, and it was such a good line, and it was so interesting, you know, to have this mysterious character who has a lot of turmoil in his past, but he cares for these people who work for him. That was very compelling to me.
As someone who did Wrathion's cloak quest 5 times in Mr. Ben. Turbo alert, wheel. Despite all of his bluster and his arrogance and his shenanigans as a teen, you see that when Wrathion's younger too. how he interacts with Celestials, if you go back and read that text, it really shows you Wrathion's strengths and his weaknesses and how he's learning though. This is a teenager finding his way in the world. You can see that whoever wrote those quests was also really good.
Yeah,
like,
they can see right through him.
She was like,
front that he puts on.
And like the bit where he has to the image of Neltharion and he's afraid. He's not like, oh, I want to use my dad's power or anything like that. You know, like, ooh, that hits hard. That sort of gravity and weight I just don't think has been present in Dragonflight. Maybe we'll be eating our words when it comes to the raid.
I don't want to be mean, but this raid and the post-raid quest, it's got to do a lot of heavy lifting for me to feel differently. It could be possible. That's the thing, is we haven't seen the end of the story yet, so there could be some really compelling moment that ties all this together and makes the payoff worth it. I don't think after Abyssian becomes Aspect, Wrathion's going to have a big role to play on the Dragon Isles anymore, but maybe if he does show up once or twice, he'll be more normal after that. So that'll be something to look forward to.
I love how really the bar is on the ground level here, guys. Sort of resigned.
Yeah, so Aspect is definitely going to be Abyssian, but I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out to be Sibelian. I don't think he's done anything that egregious that would disqualify him or anything. If the goal for these two patches was to paint Sibelian as too aggressive and warlike to be a good leader, then they failed in doing that, because he's not. He's fine. I love him so much. You empathize with him. He hasn't done anything that would make him seem like a bad leader. He's not even that aggressive, and he's not even particularly cruel.
The arguing gets on me tits. It annoys me for anyone not Australian. Apart from the constant arguing between Sibelian and Wrathion, Sibelian he's not aggressive. He doesn't want to hurt Wrathion. He's just like, you know what it feels like? Feels like either like your dad telling me.
He has a line where he says something about how, Wrathion reminds me of myself when I was younger. I don't think he comes across as poorly as Wrathion does. And he gets these compelling moments, like with Abyssian, these quiet moments that really expand on his character. Even before that, even when you're exploring the caverns and helping him recover those discs from Neltharion, things like that. I know I complained a lot about the egg scene, but I really liked how much that said for Sibelian's character, that he thought this was worth his time. He thought it was important, and that he was willing to put himself in direct danger as a decoy while his other dragons transported the real eggs to the Life Shrine. I thought that was really great. A great way to convey how much he cares for his flight and is willing to put himself into harm's way as a leader.
Yeah, he was doing the scheming, he was getting things sorted. Wrathion's always been the planner.
He even has a line in the caverns where he's like, why are you making plans, you fool? That will not win you the throne.
He's making fun of people who make plans. It's not even Wrathion at that point. I do feel like there's been too much of a heavy reliance on Wrathion as the joke character in this. Writing this Wrathion, I feel like the inspirations were the end part of Mr. Pandaria, where he throws a little teenage fit. Wrathion being punched in the face and everyone thinking it's the most hilarious thing since, I don't know,
it's the thing he's most known for, which is great. Like, love that for him. Yeah, it was the whispers. They're so good at conveying this concept.
What's the deal with all the whispers? Fucking hell. You can't use plot contrivances like that forever, or else you're going to piss people off. And by pissing
but my point with all that is there's no way Wrathion's going to be Aspect. It's just not going to happen. You know that old meme with the actor who played Commander Riker, and all the times he said, nope, on Unsolved Mysteries.
No way. We got you. Not a chance.
We would be okay with that.
I think you can tell a perfectly good, compelling story with Wrathion learning that he's either not cut out or not suited, or there's other dragons who are better than him. I think that's fine, but it's just the execution that is just so poor, with him in particular.
I feel the lack of quests getting to know Sibelian and Wrathion in 10.0, and I'm not talking about the assault on Obsidian Citadel. This is where gameplay function and storytelling have a bit of a divide. A lot of that was gameplay function, and they were trying to wrap the story into it, but I don't think it delivered in regards to explaining Wrathion and Sibelian's characters uniquely. It just let them butt heads.
I wish we had spent more time, particularly with Sibelian, because we haven't really seen him since Burning Crusade. Getting to know him and his Dragonflight, kind of see how he interacts with them. Although they were generally very positive about him, I think, from memory of those quests where you're kind of talking to the different sides.
I do feel like in the Obsidian Citadel, once we actually gain control of that, there should have been leading quests before the rep grind, more than just pick a side, champion. If you want to have players to engage and care about these characters, you need to give them a reason to care. And in Dragonflight, they really haven't given us a reason yet. Except that, like I said, Abyssian and Sibelian's quest just before, they haven't given us quest where we can spend time with that character and know a bit about them. And it could have been as simple as the Wrathion and the old red dragon. Let us sit with the character, let us talk, let the character pace in front of us. We don't need to have new techniques of gameplay mechanics.
I really wish there had been one quiet conversation that you could have with Wrathion. Maybe they could have even done that thing that they're doing with the branching dialogue, where if you are just trying to get through this and you don't care, you know, you can like find him in Loamm and, I don't know, find something he's dropped and like return it to him and have him give some kind of lead in to a conversation like, oh, sorry, I've been distracted. He sounds despondent. You know, you could have your option for the raiders, which is like, okay, and then just walk away. But if you wanted to, you could maybe strike up a conversation with him, talk to him a little bit, maybe get some of his thoughts, just like a single quiet humanizing moment. I think that would have helped.
Unfortunately, we don't.
I do feel like they kind of distilled that tantrum he throws at the end of Mott, because, you know, that's where the daddy dearest comes from. It's like a callback to Auntie Onyxia. It's him, you know, throwing a fit, saying some pretty horrible things about his intentions and what he was doing with trying to manipulate the Horde and the Alliance and stuff like that. I just feel like that was what was latched onto and used as the blueprint, which is why I'm so worried that like a jump scare, there's just going to be like a moment where he rages and then flies off or something, because it would be a funny callback. I would just, my eyes would roll into my skull and I would...
Calling back to a very early point, and just to sort of settle on this, you needed to take care with these characters, because people on the internet, the very not very polite people to people of color in WoW's fan base, which is a lot of people, and appealing to the white fan base of WoW's community, of not taking these characters with a grain of care, is very, very not good. I'm using my words carefully here. It gives people ammunition in regards to how they treat these characters, and that then reflects towards your actual players who are people of color, and they see how WoW's player base responds to these characters of color and how they treat them and how they view them and how they perceive them. And yes, it is a narrative and it is just, you know, a story that's being told, but that does have an effect on how people perceive themselves in game, and then how a player base then perceives those characters and their reaction to them. They needed to take especially good care of these characters, and I don't think they've done that 100%.
Dreamy-eyed Caligos, yeah, he doesn't know how good he's got it.
Protection. So the devs faves. But
yeah, Wrathion
like
in
said,
particular is just a complicated character. He is one of the rare cases in WoW where you have a character who is truly morally gray, and he's undergone so much character development between Kata and BFA. And even in that short story that they released, The Vow Eternal, what's happening in game feels like a step back from where we left him at the end of that short story. He seemed like he was on the path to ascending to be a better person and a better leader, really stepping into that role. And now we're here.
Anyway, we'll see come Tuesday what the outcomes is. Literally my only thing that I don't think that the writers should do. It will hurt, but not in a, wow, that was such good writing way. I mean, like, I will literally feel like myself age about 10 years if they think that killing off a character will work.
I would be so upset if any one of them got corrupted, Sibelian, Wrathion, or Abyssian. I really, really, really do not want that to happen. I think I would only be up for a corruption storyline if the end goal was to uncorrupt them and not give up on them and do better for the Black Dragonflight in the present than was done for them in the past, having the other Dragonflights help out and stuff like that too. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think anyone's going to die.
No one gets corrupted. I would probably do like a Sentai, be like, by our powers combined, everyone get in a cool pose, and all three of them have to do a cool pose together.
They just blast Sarah Kathleen like a hole in the ground and
Power Rangers style. So by our powers combined, we're not going to be corrupted.
Yeah.
It'll be something along those lines. And Abyssian will become Aspect, And he'll just turn to Wrathion. You always have a home here, Wrathion, and Rathion's like, but what will I do now?
Something like that. I really don't know what they're going to do with him after this. So like looking on the bright side, they could be doing all of this because they mentioned before that they want to start doing more stories with characters that continue from expansion to expansion. So if like the goal of all this is to have Wrathion be free to wander Azeroth and get involved in whatever the expansion stories more, I think I'd be okay with that. I think I would like it less if he's still acting childish and impatient the way he is here, but in theory I do like that, so I don't know. It's like the monkey's paw answer. Like, oh yeah, I want an expansion of Wrathion. That sounds amazing. I was so optimistic because
before Dragonflight.
I was really trying not to get my expectations up too high, but so there was that great dialogue from the Bartender Wrathion Hearthstone card, which was amazing. It was like the perfect blending of everything about his character, and it was really fun.
Thank you, Hearthstone. I mean, less so for the whitewashed art, but like for the lines though, and thumbs up in here.
It's not just the Bartender, it was the art book came out and he was listed in the aspect section. Do you remember when you told me about that? And my first reaction was, this has got to be a fluke. They wouldn't spoil this like this. This has got to be a misprint. This has got to be a mistake. Just think of how many mistakes there were in exploring Kalimdor, because I was getting excited and I was trying to talk myself down from it because he got so much art. We've been really spoiled with beautiful artwork for him this expansion. He's gotten like a couple of portraits. We had that full body render of his entire outfit with the details in the silk and everything like that. And he got that beautiful portrait for the Vow Eternal cover art. Oh yeah, and then the Vow Eternal was really good. And I was like, oh, okay, if this is how he's going to be, this is going to be really good. Yeah, and so I'm sitting here with my clown mask on. I got my hopes up, even though I warned myself not to.
I got my hopes up a bit, you know. Like,
do you remember when we were like, oh, like I said, maybe he'll be in the trailer cinematic. Maybe we'll see a full render of him.
Yeah. Maybe they'll even do like small cinematic.
Yeah, maybe they'll do one of all the aspects, and Wrathion will get a moment, and it'll be really cool.
Like the ones I'm laughing, but inside I'm like, you thought that Wrathion throwing hands at bones was bad. Wait till you see me throwing some hands. Pulling from the great scholar Bofady's hands. Anyway, we can see what the writers are trying to do here, but it's not been delivered well. I mean, fucking hell. You can feel like the difference between those two first chapters and the third chapter with Abyssian and Sibelian. It's like someone completely different writing them. It's the pacing though. If they wanted the whispers, they should have given hints in the Obsidian Citadel line, a lead up, even like they had all of 10.07 and they never mentioned these whispers, right? And we knew that, oh God, corruption was coming. We knew as the players, foreshadowing is a thing, my guys. You can be like, well, it's not there, and of course there's going to be, oh God, corruption. That needed to be woven into the story early. You want us to believe that these characters are acting weird because of the corruption.
Yeah, and then like I was saying earlier, okay, like when did this start? Because they've been acting like this since they arrived on the Dragon Isles. So are the whispers affecting them above ground too? What is going on here?
So don't question it. It's the whisper. And the people arguing, Wrathion's just fake.
He's definitely not like he was in the FA. Like I mentioned earlier, I was surprised even by how different he is in those quests compared to how he's written in this expansion.
So I think I've said my piece. I'm tired out. Be flopping back in my chair.
Yeah, let's do it. I think I covered everything I wanted to talk about. Oh no, what's gonna happen?
Because we're gonna get mad about this too.
Don't do this to me.
The situation is dire.
Oh no.
We pursued Feroc to a great cauldron below, a font of elemental.
Also, Wrathion's shorter now.
It consumed the energies within.
Shorter. Wrathion check, shorter.
Wreathed in shadow flame.
Shadow flame. We cannot.
And it's not any sort of thing that.
Oh, okay. I got worried when Wrathion kind of
the corruption
stepped up first.
To stop the sundered flame. You cannot.
I was like, oh God, is he gonna get chewed out again?
Respectfully, Lifebinder, it was Deathwing who fell to that corruption. I believe that we have the strength to resist what lies below.
All of you?
This is our battle to fight. The world must be shown that the Black Dragonflight can bear its responsibilities.
Very well. When you are ready, return to Zaralek. May the true spirit of the Earth
that's me
guide you.
in the corner.
Oh, I believe we have the strength to handle this. Since
Again,
when? I thought we were just talking about how the Whispers were causing both of them to fall apart and make irresponsible, rash decisions. Where is this confidence coming from? I don't think we weren't doing so good. We weren't doing so hot.
Oh, Wrathion's big again. He's big again. He's huge again. These characters have just had their asses whooped. And Abyssion's like, no, we can survive the Whispers. Abyssion, let me remind you, you were corrupt. You were being corrupted until Wrathion came along and said, bro, drink this. And he held out a bottle of Monster to him. Why was Abyssion leading that conversation? I know that they want him to be aspect, but he's not the expert in corruption here. Why is Wrathion?
Don't remember. All the knowledge just fell out of his brain on the way over to the Dragon Isles. He's just so obsessed with claiming the throne, being aspect, that he just can't. I was bracing myself for them to make him an antagonist or a villain, and I was really not prepared for them to make him incompetent.
It feels like the writers once again have looked at Wrathion like, you can't be having all these traits. You need to share with your brothers. Right? It's like, oh, come on. No, Abyssion's just taken all the ability and corruption knowledge, Zell. He knows everything about corruption. Everything. This man, he solved corruption himself. Wrathion Hunst. Let's go have a look at huge Wrathion.
Can you remember the tallest man you've ever seen?
Wrathion's even bigger. Losing my mind. He's the woman in Scary Movie's hat.
You know, at least he has that going for him.
He's huge, Cell. He's huge.
Sibelian's so tiny.
I know, Sibelian's teeny weeny. Look at him.
I know, I'm like up to his waist.
I'm only up to Wrathion's knee. This feels a little bit odd. Poor old Sibelian here is just like, hey, I'm a normal sized guy.
Sibelian is still pretty tall. I only can't feel like his elbow, not including my horns. Oh, okay, let's see.
That's the thing, right?
Uh-oh.
Go into your Dragonflight mode. Abyssion, are you seeing this shit?
Okay, now I feel tall.
Are you seeing this shit, Abyssion? What the fuck? Sibelian's like, I'm sorry, but the shadow flame reduced me. I've been shrunk in the wall. And Wrathion's like, damn. And that's rough. I'm sorry. Sorry for your loss. Anyway, what the fuck? We want them. We put in 3 reports about them. Oh my god, this is amazing.
Him being like a good
Wrathion growing 2
head and a half taller than Sibelian brings me joy. I really thought they were going to end it with them walking away and Wrathion giving his little line about how injured Sibelian is, which I do really like. A nice, subtle way of showing that he does care, and Sibelian's like very gruff in response. It's a good moment.
We'll hang on to any line we can get here, honestly. Yeah, so next week, well, I'm saying next week, on Tuesday, probably Wednesday for me, Caligos' quest will open up.
What does Caligos smell like?
Won't have a comment about how he smells.
Magic.
The continuation of the Black Dragonflight storyline will continue with the Slither Drake. Actually, the next chapter is pretty unegregious, like I said. It's pretty average. Wrathion's sandwich on part of it, other than looking at Slither Drakes and being like, So to conclude, yeah, we got our Jimmy's rustled. This is the thing. We're not bothered.
It's not the end of the world. We have fan fiction. We'll be fine.
We'll be fine. And the thing is that we just want to
nerd out over our favorite character.
We just want to nerd out. Also, I just dumped you off by the door still. Sorry.
Hey, rude.
Anyway.
Do you want to do
to really
favorite parts and least favorite parts?
Okay, so favorite parts. A nice intertwining of gameplay and story mechanics with chapter 3 and putting out the Shadow Flame. I like the call back to Shadow Flame. I like a little bit of reference to Onyxia and Cat. I like seeing that again. That's cool. I like how Abyssion and Sibelian have all their interactions in chapter 3. I'm nodding very powerfully here. I love the sets, by the way. Again, the art team really lived in. I like the look of Zaralek Cavern. And not as fond of Zaralek Cavern as other Dragonflight zones. Well, these whelps stop bullying me though, like real shit. I mean, bullying in game, holy shit. You little buggers, get back here. Anyway, I'm pretty sure there'll be some nice pets in the zone. Farak and the villains, I'm not particularly invested in them, but I don't mind them compared to villains of Shadowlands. Less said about that, the better. They're okay. Like I said, I don't mind them. I do like the designs. I love Farak's
his cute little arms. I love them so much.
Design. I don't have much to say about the cutscenes. Again, pacing. I don't think they really add anything to the story. There's a big furore, by the way, on Twitter before the patch came out. Like, no, you need to experience the cutscenes along with the quest. They didn't really add anything to it. Personally, again, I hate saying it. This brings me no joy. I don't think they added much to it. I thought that the scene about the glove was bizarre. I think they could have picked a better topic for that cutscene. A few little ones were okay, but I hold my hands up. The one where Civilian got blasted with a fire Kamehameha, highly funny. That was incredibly funny, and it wasn't the intention of the devs, but I was hooting and hollering. That was amazing. Poor Civilian. Where did his mustache go? Where did his eyebrows go? Poor old Civilian got absolutely decimated in that cutscene, and I'm here for it. The poor guy, like, holy shit. I said, I'm sold on Civilian. I like Civilian. I like Abyssian. I do wish Abyssian wasn't so... People were saying Abyssian was affected by the whispers because he spoke a bit too harshly.
Maybe we don't have to worry about Abyssian becoming corrupted. Maybe if he becomes corrupted, he's just like the kind of person who will like not fold it. I don't know, just like something. Sorry, I'm getting a little tired. I'm like trying to reach for something that's impolite.
Oh my god, but yeah, my eyes rolled in when someone was like, oh my god, you have to understand, Abyssian is affected by the whispers too.
Yeah, did he not hold the door open for
when he was at the restaurant? Did he say, Wrathion, excuse me, but you're talking a little loud today. What is wrong? Wrathion's like, I can't believe he said this to me, Abyssian. He's so mean. What the fuck? What the ever-loving
He's
fuck?
making sure
Also,
you're
Onion,
staying
please.
warm. He's doing a good job.
Very important conversation here, and I'm being rushed.
We're learning how to work together. I'm very proud of them.
I'm trying my paladin ass it. But yes, so there's my general thing. Weak points, mostly everything with Wrathion. He had a few good points. I like him carrying the meat. I think he should have had his own little quest line tucked away. Just a quick side one. You just go talk to him. You go help him like pre-prepare to attack Aberrus. He actually to like get a special ingredient for a potion or something. Genuinely, I feel like the writers didn't want to have Wrathion there. And as awful as that sounds,
I just don't know who he was written for, because I just don't feel like this was written for his fans. Visions from the Zoth felt like, in comparison, such a love letter to his character, and I don't really know what's going on here. You know, I don't know if he's on some journey of self-discovery, like he's gonna learn stuff. Like, I just don't know why they're writing him. Well, I mean, I know it's because it's to make him look like he shouldn't be aspect and to give reasons for that. But yeah, maybe I just answered my own question. He's not going to be aspect, and so that's why all this is happening. We have to make Abyssian look better.
Anyway, we'll see the resolution. Well, we won't see the resolution straight away because you know how mythic raiders, like world first raiders, love to go see the story and lore.
I'm now in this weird position where it's like, okay, do I want to stay off social media still and try to avoid the cutscene? But then it's like, okay, we're going to attempt to pug this, pug normal with strangers, and who knows how long that's going to take. So yeah, I still haven't decided yet. I'm going to keep my head down or if I'm just going to bite the bullet. And because I do really want to see the ending to this story. Part of me feels bad for being so critical when I haven't seen the ending yet, but at the same time,
a good ending can save a story. However, it doesn't reduce the damage done by said
story. Yeah, it's about the journey, not the destination, because there's never going to be a final destination for this game.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I could always just give you the cutscenes on Discord, and then it saves you from reading anyone's opinions. I can just give you the links, or maybe even find the best streamer who maybe listened to all like the cutscenes in the raid. We'll be able to tear through normal. Pugging is one thing, like you need to have the.
I really do want to see the raid, like the little bits I've seen, especially of Wrathion, I really liked. So I would love to see that voice acted. Every brother gets their own wings, so they will be separated for a bit.
I mean, we say that, and remember what they said about those cutscenes just before in the quest. We see the unusual dynamic between each brother. Well, that was a lie. Don't say that shit if you're not going to show dynamics between the brothers other than just, you guys better behave. That doesn't show me any dynamics.
Since we decided to do this, I've been going back and forth on how critical and how not critical I wanted to be, but then I decided last week that, you know, after that YouTube short was released with the beloved duck NPCs cheering for Alexstrasza and booing for Wrathion, that I was going to try to be honest. It was so good seeing Wrathion. I'm looking forward to the raid. I am looking forward to seeing the ending to all this.
I think the person that would get the most out of this story is a person who isn't really a fan of the Black Dragonflight. Coming along for the story and it's entertaining enough. I think that's the person who this story has been written for. It's not really for the people who are the lore hounds, because you can immediately pick the errors in it and like the weird sort of mischaracterization.
And it's written for the Civilian and Abyssian fans. Civilian, which I now count myself one of his fans.
I'd say it's enjoyable enough if you don't think about it very hard. You know, if you don't really like Wrathion as a character, you're not really engaged in Wrathion as a character, you don't know his character before. You just want to see some dragons
the
being set on
Burninator,
fire.
burninate the land.
Like, just turn your brain off, enjoy. Okay, so I think that pretty much concludes.
I think I've said everything that I want to say. Yeah, looking forward to the raid, looking forward to see the conclusion. Just wondering what is going to happen to Wrathion after this. I feel like I'm watching like a train wreck that's about to happen. Just Wrathion is on the rails, headed for this broken track, and I can't do anything. I'm just like waiting for him to crash and burn and just,
I do think that it's not going to be that, but I think, like I said, it's just going to be very the usual sort of like, oh, you'll always have a home here, Wrathion.
He'll ride off into the sunset as Dust in the Wind by Kansas plays behind him.
Until we need our next MacGuffin or our next like legendary item or something.
I heard there was a legendary quest coming. I don't think he's going to be really the one to host that. Do you have anything else you wanted to get off your chest?
Oh, my concluding point? I mean, I have a lot to say, but am I going to say it though? No, I'm wise. So I'm just going to say that was just generally my thoughts. I've got things that I'm mad about.
Do you want to maybe do this again like next weekend after the next series of quests so we can finish this up? And maybe try to pug and see what happens? I'm hoping Wrathion's Wing is the first one because I wanna hear his dialogue.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a disaster, but I've decided, okay, I'm just going to like tell people that I'm here only for the story and I'm going to make them wait. Just be like, hey guys, you need to wait a minute. I really need to listen to this. Like, you don't understand.
Oh, they will.
The real challenge
in pugs is not the bosses, but the people that you're simply pugging with. We'll do that and we'll experience some story. I might have a cheeky peek at the World First Raiders because I'll probably do a normal run, but none of them are going to be running off. And
I've already tried to find footage that someone had taken of the raid in the PTR, but the only videos I found after plumbing the depths of YouTube were all boss fights, and I was like, this is not what I want. I want the flavor text in between these fights, please, someone.
I will say once again, Blizzard could create easy content for themselves if they strip it down to a scenario quest. And it gives you no loot, maybe one piece of loot at the end of doing it, but a solo player wanting the lore and the story isn't going to be hindered. I will put my foot down on that. Blizzard needs an option like that. They need to stop hiding their story behind rep or dungeons or raids and things like that. Yes, it isn't the strongest and they want the experience for that story. This will help you still maintain the experience without just people going on YouTube and watching the videos. Like Wrathion's backstory, you need to go on YouTube and look at his old quests because you've removed them all. Keep things in game, turn it into a scenario, let people play it if they want. Anyway, they need a way that's more easily accessible for story content. Again, I'm saying this as someone who used to be an elite hardcore raider. I used to do PvP, the works. I used to be that nerd who went onto healing forums and argued about the benefits of crit and hit and MP,
oh my god, you were deep in the sauce then.
You know, mana per every 5 seconds. I was deep in the sauce. It's so embarrassing. I was like a party girl, 18-year-old, and then I'm like, okay, I'm too busy this weekend. I got to log online and argue with nerds about mathematics. I can't deny it. It's Holy Priest. It was Holy I needed to beat my raid leader who was a disciplined priest back in Wrath, and I was like, I need to learn the secrets. I'm going to argue about maths and mana per 5 seconds and how much I can reduce my hit so I can still get maximum recovery time.
Yes.
Oh, how embarrassing.
This is going to be a very long video.
We have talked for a very long time here. Yeah, we've fully conveyed our feelings about this. Thank you for anyone who tuned in. I hope everyone enjoyed listening to this. Don't think too harshly of me. I'm definitely the bad cop to Sill's good cop.
It's
and also, Wrathion disappeared. He needs to be with Finduin here. Actually, no, because of the whispers. So let's be real here.
Oh yeah, little Deathwing.
The whispers, little Deathwing. The whispers did it, clearly. The whispers. Anyway, so we'll see how Tuesday goes. And I'll probably have a nosy, see how everything's going, the usual. And then we'll enjoy them on the weekend and we'll engage with them. There we go. Anyway, so I think that basically
very, very important.
Up, and we got a dance together. That's our outro. Here we go.
See you next week.
And thank you. We'll see you next week. Well,
There was the primalist who thought he was a dragon, but he was a primalist, and he called himself
Trogdor. No, wait, Trogdor had big muscly arms. Oh my god, we can't apply
Oh yeah,
it.
that's
we
right.
Can't apply it. So what we
he aspires to be that. He aspires to have big,
Trogdor
meaty, strong Trogdor arms.
Big muscle arms.
He has dreams. Brock has dreams.
He's got to do a few more of the, biceps days.